This is the Vision 79 podcast, where my friend Sander and myself, Mason, discuss recent developments in our business and personal growth. The name Vision 79 comes from our respective racing numbers. Sander's is 40, mine is 39, and we have similar ambition to progress in business and personal growth. Many successful people have started small, just like us, but very few of them have documented their early years. They often say they wish they had, and given we believe in learning lessons from others, we intend to be the first to document our journey from start to finish. This is simply a documentary of our lives, and as such, we do not monetize these videos, so enjoy the ad-free content. Today, we have an incredible opportunity to record in a space that means a lot to both of us, with some cars that mean the world to us. Racing has always been a pillar of this podcast, and I'm excited to emphasize the importance motorsport has had on our personalities, business endeavors, and our relentless pursuit to improve. The American Muscle Car Museum in Melbourne, Florida continues to give back to its community, and we are deeply appreciative to every member of the organization from top to bottom. We'll speak more in detail about the museum later, but first, we start each episode with an update on where we're at in our life and our business before we get into the cars. We actually couldn't get into this car today. It's that special. Usually we start the podcast in the car.
Yeah.
But to get this started, what's your life update this week?
Yeah.
Mine's a whole page front and back.
I got 4 bullets,
That's-
and one of them is future.
I'm excited to hear your bullets.
So I got 3 that are past tense.
Okay.
So one of them's a repeat from last week. Just trying to continue to find more and more time to push into the business stuff.
Cool.
Figuring out how to, consolidate my time in the best way I can. Work picked up a little bit this past week, so figuring out how to juggle with that as well as be able to get some time for business was kind of a good little game to play.
Yeah.
What I realized was there are some days right now where it's like 10, 12 hours, and then there are some days that could easily be 6.
Okay.
And so, although like you're, encouraged to stay for 8, even if you have like 5 or 6 hours of work, like 2 out of the 4 days this week, I just left after like 6 or 7 because I finished the work I had to do, and I was just like, I'm just going home.
That's awesome.
So, just kind of that helps out a little bit,
Really?
in terms of balancing the time, because if you're stuck at work for 12 hours, you only probably have a solid 4 hours of the day that you can work. You got to
Right.
sleep and eat and drive,
Right.
so, continuing that, with 100% business focus. This week, I did drive the BMW around the block, started that car up and drove around the block.
Have you not been driving it? Just to keep
I haven't even touched it since I washed it. I haven't started or anything.
Gotcha.
So
And that was
I-
washing it to take photos to list it, right?
yeah, but I ended up, I still need to do a little bit more work. So
Okay.
just small things that I already have to install. So I haven't listed it yet. It always has had like a miss on startup,
Yeah.
but like usually clears up in like 2 to 3 seconds. This
Mhm.
time it was like more like 30 seconds. So I'm still thinking that my primary issue on that car running wise is going to be fuel pump.
Mm.
And so I'm going to look at how much a fuel pump is, because it's not hard to do. It's
Mhm.
just I think I did look a while back and it wasn't too expensive. So might just add that to the list before I sell it. That way it doesn't miss on a cold start and stuff. But in addition to that, I really don't have much life. We have your car work coming up this afternoon.
Yep.
Hopefully get that working. And
Very
then
excited for that.
Alex Hormozi's book launch for
Tomorrow?
$100 million money models is tomorrow at noon.
Yeah.
Got a few things on the plate that are life-ish oriented.
We should share our notes from the book launch in our life updates next week.
Yeah,
That'd be
for
fun.
sure. Yeah, I think it will be really good.
Yeah.
Hormozi stuff always is. So
I'm excited. Yeah.
yeah, no, it'll be good. But that's about all I have for life. So
That's
story.
okay.
What do you got?
Short and sweet. I have
Yeah.
so much. So we are working on the Camaro tomorrow. That's my first bullet point. Or today. We're working on it later today. And I'm super excited for that because I haven't driven the car in like over a month. When we did our last American Muscle Car Museum podcast, the car wasn't running. So for viewers, it's been that long, and I miss driving it. As much as I love the Lexus and how comfortable it is, I really love the Lexus for the fact that I can forget that I'm even driving. Like, I'm just that comfortable in the car and I can space out. But
Yeah.
I do like to drive, so I prefer a balance of the two. I like to drive hard and be engaged and focused, and then I like the ability every once in a while to like space out. So not having the Camaro and just driving the Lexus has been fun, but I've got that itch again. You know what I mean? So I'm super excited to get it running. Earlier this week, we had someone from my team at work leave. He announced that he was leaving a few weeks ago, but his last day was this week. And so we went out to lunch for him on his last day. And this was the first like big work lunch that I had been to. There was like 15, 20 people. And it was really strange to me because most people are older. So I would say the average age there was probably like mid late 30s. But listening to all the people that I usually only talk with about work at work talk about their personal lives was super interesting because a lot of the people place a heavy emphasis on like what they're doing next in terms of like vacation or retirement or like having their next kid or something like that. And the ones with kids today, that's most of what takes up their time, right? And there was an interesting parallel I noticed between me and the people with kids because every time someone would ask someone with a kid a question, the answer would be related to their kid. And that's interesting because I feel like most times people ask us questions, we answer it with something related to whatever work we're doing at the time, right? Um, and as far as vacation talk goes, like I don't go on vacation.
Yeah.
And I like it that way. But when my coworkers asked me about that, because we kind of like went around the room, it was like, if you could go on a no limits, no spending limits vacation, where would you go? Everyone was answering questions. And then I was like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not big on vacation, so I haven't even really thought about it. And then it started off by going, oh, well, think about it. What are some places you'd like to visit? And then eventually divulged into, wait, you don't like vacations? What are you talking about? And like most of them tried to convince me to like vacations and like couldn't wrap their head around the fact that sometimes I would just rather stay home and work.
Yeah.
Like a good vacation for me is the 3-day weekends on the off Fridays where I get to just go work
Yeah.
on my laptop, you know?
Yeah, the good vacations is like an extra day of the weekend
Yeah.
where like, maybe you got a holiday or whatever. Like that's like, oh yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
you get a lot done. Like,
Right. Yeah.
I feel better coming out of a 3-day weekend where I got a lot done than a 3-day weekend where I went and did nothing, right? Unless I have been pushing for like 8 months or a year and I
Yeah.
need to let off the gas.
That's why I love the Rolex so much, is it's like you can push all year and then you just get like one weekend to
Right.
like say fuck it to all of
Right.
it and just chill.
Yeah. Usually for me, that manifests in the week after Christmas where I build all my Lego and I like
Mm.
shut my laptop and I don't touch anything for like 5 days. But like if I have that week in early January, then like I don't need a whole week in June. You know what I mean? But it was really interesting listening to people try to convince me otherwise and then watching them understand later on when we started talking about real estate because it'll be in my business update, but I got a text mid lunch from a client asking us to write an offer. So I started writing the offer at the lunch table. And everyone was like, "What are you doing? Like, get off your phone." And I was like, "No, this is like more important, right?" And then I got to start talking about why I like real estate. And then someone was like, "Oh, like, what's the market doing right now?" And that's an important question for me because I had been asked that question like 4 or 5 months ago. And I answered it with the best way that I could, which is it's always a good time to buy or sell real estate depending on your goals, right? Like good investors make money in an up market or a down market, right? It all depends on your advertising, who your agent is, and what your property value is, right? Um, and what your value proposition is. Because you can have a shit property, but market that to investors and still make good money. Um, and so I answered that question in the way that I would want it answered to me. But I was listening to a real estate professionals podcast, the Tom Ferry podcast. I've mentioned it on here before. And in the podcast, this was like months ago. He was like, if you don't have a solid answer to what is the market doing right now, you are not a real estate agent. Like you need to be reading what's actually happening in the market. And so since listening to that podcast, I did my market analysis for all the cities in Brevard. And I saw the trend across the whole thing, which is homes are sitting on the market for a long time, which means that it's a buyer's market because you have more leverage when making an offer on the home because they don't have competing offers, right?
Mm.
But I know from going to one of the things that my brokers did a few weeks ago that the Fed is set to cut interest rates at least once, maybe twice throughout the rest of this year. There's more mortgage loan applications in 2025 than there were in 2024. And usually that trends up when the Fed cuts rates because it means that you can get a mortgage with a lower interest
Yeah.
rate, right? So houses are sitting for a long time on the market now, but when people start getting lower interest rates on their mortgage, they're going to start pulling out more mortgages. There's going to be more buyers, and then the market's going to balance out, right? And so what I just said is what I said at the lunch table. And I got excited about it and started talking about why I love it, right? And then everyone was like, okay, I kind of understand what your deal is, right? It's like, dual income, no kids. You don't have the same like values that we do. But I really felt like an other at the table, which was interesting because I didn't feel out of place in that. But it was the first time I had been to an event like that. So that's my first half of my life update. Do you have questions while I get a drink?
Mm-mm. No, I mean,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
gotcha.
On to my second half of my life update. And this is where I'm going to start fucking tweaking. So all of this is inspired by the fact that the other day I was driving to work and I saw a car on the road. It looked a lot like the Lexus I have, but it had a different grille. It didn't have the lines like the strakes, it had the spindle grille.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, I didn't know the spindle grille was an option on my car. Maybe I missaw it. And instead of being the ES, which is the four-door sedan I have, maybe it's the IS, which is the shorter wheelbase four-door sedan.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember it having that grille either. And so I looked it up. It's neither. It's a Lexus LS, which is the luxury version of my car,
Mm.
which has softer suspension. It's got the sensors that look ahead and they soften or stiffen the suspension based on the road conditions.
Oh, yeah.
It's got heated and cooled seats in all 4 seats.
Oh,
It's
wow.
got a center console, like a rigid center console in the back seat. So they're like bucket seats. It's basically like a front seat in the back seat.
Mm.
The back seats recline and have like a recliner function that lifts your feet up like you're in a lazy boy recliner. And they have massaging seats in all 4 seats. It's I I am beyond words. It's that cool. And I was like, man, it's an $80,000 price point. But it feels halfway between the sedan that I have and an actual Rolls Royce. And the fact that you can get like halfway to a Rolls Royce for $80,000 when an entry level price for a Rolls is like 300K is like a great value proposition. And so then I started thinking about it and I was like, shit, dude, you know, I miss driving the Camaro, but recently Grace and I have had to drive across the whole county for real estate, and doing an open house in Titusville and then a showing in the afternoon in Palm Bay and then a dinner with a client in Merritt Island. You're driving the whole length of the county. I don't want to do that in the Camaro every day, right? It's too much driving. The air conditioning in the Camaro is not good enough. It's too loud to take calls while I drive. It would be nice to have the Camaro as like a 3 days out of the week car and then a softer car like the Lexus I have for the rest of the time, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm buying another Lexus, I would like to get a nicer one. So the LS would be a pretty good call, especially because I can take clients around and soft seats in the back and stuff. And if the seats recline, it's a great car to take to the Rolex because then we can just sleep in the back of the car.
Yeah.
But as I started learning about it, I was like, okay, so the L must be luxury. Like it's the luxury version of my car, right? So luxury, I'm guessing sedan, but I have an ES. What is the E? I know the 350 is 3.5 liter V6, but what is the E? And so I looked into it. And while I was looking into it, I found that there's an LC as well.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, okay, so LC must be luxury coupe. And so I have a breakdown of all the letters and numbers here. I is for intelligent. E is for executive, which is what I have. L is luxury. S is sport or sedan. C is for coupe. G is grand. R is radiant or radical, depending on the car. U is urban, and N is nimble. So that's the first letter. And then the second letter is S for sedan, C for coupe, X for SUV or crossover, M for minivan. I didn't even know Lexus had a minivan. It's like a full-size van. It's big.
Damn.
Z is electric, L is for long wheelbase, H is hybrid, T is turbo, and F is the Lexus performance variant. So like you can get the
LA.
IS, yeah, the F Sport package, right?
Yeah.
And it's called F because Lexus does all their testing at the Fuji Speedway in Japan. And so it's called F Sport after the Fuji Speedway.
Sure.
So let's practice. The Lexus LC 500H is a Lexus luxury coupe 5.0 liter V8 H hybrid. An RX 350 is a radiant crossover SUV 3.5 liter V6, long wheelbase with the L, and so on and so forth, right? And as I'm going through this, I'm noticing, oh, there's an LC, right? I know that there's like the RC and the RCF. It's like the two-door like sports car Lexus thing. I've never really liked it. I've heard like not great things about it. It doesn't strike me visually. It's kind of the same thing that I have with BMW, where it's like, I've heard that the people who own them like them. I've talked to people who don't own them, who don't like them. I can see the value in the car, but it's just not for me.
Mhm.
But it's still beside the point. I'm noticing there's an LC variant somewhere, right? And I'm like, a luxury coupe sounds like it could be right up my alley. And
Yeah.
so I look it up. The Lexus LC 500. Do you know anything about this
I
car?
do know this car. It is
I
cool. It is cool.
I didn't know anything about this
Oh,
car.
got it.
4 days ago, I didn't know this car existed. When I pulled up the very first picture I saw of it on the Lexus website, I was like, I know that car. I recognize that car.
Yeah.
I see that car once in a blue moon, and it turns my head because I don't know what it is, and I've never found one in a parking lot to go up and look at it close. I've only ever seen them driving past. And it's always caught my eye, but I've never really known what it was.
Yeah.
The second I started learning about it, I lost my fucking mind, dude. I lost my mind. This is exactly what I'm looking for in a car. It's a luxury car when you want to drive it slow. It's a sports car when you want to drive it fast. It's like the perfect GT car. It's built so solid. It's built so well. The materials inside are incredible. It's reliable because it's a Lexus. And it's got a 5-liter V8, and it sounds fucking incredible. And I learned it's designed and built by the same team that built the LFA. And the reason it sounds as good as it does, because it sounds incredible. Do you know all this already?
I've looked into car some, but go for it. Yeah. No, you're good.
They had musicians on the team that was designing the car.
Mhm.
And they have piping in the engine bay that goes from the intake ducts and the engine back into the car. So it's piping real engine sound into the car, not speakers or sounds. It's not the electric Dodge that like makes speaker sounds on the outside for other people to hear your car. It is for you to hear this car rip. It revs to 7,100 RPM. It sounds incredible, right? And then you turn it into like luxury mode, and like it's a rumble in the back. It's like there's a
Yeah.
sports car driving around you, right? It's so quiet and soft. And so I fully autismed out, dude. I fucking lasered in on this car. All I have been doing, I had to pull myself away from learning about this car to learn about this car. And I love these podcasts, and I love researching for these podcasts. I had to rip myself away from learning about this car because I have been going so deep
Yeah.
into it this year or this week. Now I know like what updates they made from model year to model year. I know what years you can get in what color and what years you can't. I'm honestly, I'm so smitten with this car, and it's $100,000. That's it.
Yeah.
It's just $100,000.
I always liked the infinity taillights on those.
Yeah.
That was something when it came out. It came out. The original model came out while I was in high school.
2017.
Yeah.
It was announced.
And I remember someone in the neighborhood got one like right off the bat. And the taillights, that was like when infinity lights were like super new.
Yeah.
And people were like, "Holy crap! Like, how did they do that? Like, that's wild." Yeah,
They're designed
they're really cool.
they're designed to look like the afterburner on a jet engine.
Oh, got it.
That's where the design
Okay.
inspiration comes from. They have these crazy the A control arms in the front have this really weird mounting point so that the actual pivot point is below the top of the arm. And that's because they needed to get the strut towers low to have the hood line as low as possible. And
Mm,
actually, the hood line is so low in that car, they have charges like airbag charges under the hood, because if you hit a pedestrian, technically it's too low for regulation. And so Lexus designed a system where if you hit a pedestrian, these charges detonate and it raises the hood up high enough so that if you hit the pedestrian, it like cushions the below.
wow.
Crazy, right? Dude, 10-speed automatic transmission. But it shifts. This is apparently one of the transmissions that shifts so quick. It's one of the transmissions that's like significantly cheaper than a dual clutch, but you get like 70-80% of the performance of it. So it's kind of like a more affordable way of doing a dual clutch transmission. Or it's something similar, right?
Mm,
Um, but I'm just absolutely in love with this car. They come in a convertible or a coupe. The coupe was released in 2018, and then in 2021 they introduced the convertible. The 2018 car, the suspension wasn't refined. They added a different damping system in 2019. There's actually a guy. Do you follow Savage Geese on YouTube?
I heard of him, but
He's fucking awesome, dude. He does really good car reviews. But in watching the one about the Lexus, he was talking about how, the 2018 one on rough road was like way too stiff. They had to soften it up. They fixed it in 2019. 2021, the convertible came out, and so they added a rear damper in the back, and the coupe you can get with rear wheel steering, and that makes it feel a lot more nimble because it's such a long car. Because technically, the LS and the LC use the same chassis. So the
Mhm.
sports car is on a sedan chassis, right?
Got it.
Which is part of why it looks so good, but it is a long wheelbase. So if you want to like drive it fast, the rear wheel steering goes a long way. And he's talking about this, and I'm like, yeah, but like I never really know how well the reviewer knows cars. Like when Doug DeMuro tells me that a car drives rough, I don't actually know if that's true because I don't think Doug DeMuro has like on track experience, right? But Savage Geese, this guy was talking about how he's a little bit too wide for the seats in the Lexus, and he actually has rib pain from doing long road trips in this car because the seats grip him a little bit too much. And he was like, "That's weird because I've never had rib pain in any other car." I mean, obviously, like I get rib pain sometimes when I go karting, but I wear like a rib belt, so it's not that big of an issue. And it's karting, so that's the case. And I go, "Oh, he has used a rib guard before, so like he has some on track experience, right?" But then he started talking about how when you take the Lexus out on track, you only have like 7 or 8 good laps because it doesn't have an oil or transmission cooler. So eventually the transmission heats up faster than the engine, and that's the limiting factor on your car. And it has 21-inch wheels. Um, and because of the 21-inch wheels, I can't remember exactly what he said. He was like, you have to play with the tire pressures between the front and the rear so that the fronts heat up as fast as the rears. And then like from lap 4 to 6, you get good traction. You get rid of the understeer before the transmission kicks in. So like laps 4 through 6 are your friend if you run these tire pressures. But then I tried these different tires and I fucked with that. And like he gets into the technicalities of it. I'm like, oh my God, he does know what he's talking about. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Now I can trust what he has to say, right? So now when he says, get the rear wheel steering package, it makes a difference. Now I know to listen to him, right?
Mm.
And what's interesting is I'm actually considering buying one of these cars in the near future. I'm like, I don't care if I can afford it or not. I'm in the stage of, have you ever like met a girl and immediately you're in love with her? And like the first 5 days, you're like, I don't even care what happens in the rest of my life. I'm just gonna find out how to be with this woman.
Yeah.
Do you know that feeling?
Mhm.
I have that feeling right now.
Yeah.
I have the genuine feeling here. No one knows if it's gonna be. It's rumored that 2026 is the last model year, right? They're coming out with this like a special performance package. Um, it's called like the Pinnacle Edition, right? Which makes you think that, oh, it might be the last time they're doing it, right? The last year. But some other models, I think the IC 500 or something like that, I can't remember, got a specialty year in Japan and they discontinued production in Japan, but America got a few more years of it. And they don't have a replacement for this car, but it's heavily rumored that the replacement for this car is going to be a V6 hybrid.
Got
So
it.
it's not this could be like the last of the GT like V8 coupes,
Mm.
which makes this car even more historically significant. Um, but in addition to that, um, 2026 might be the last model year. And if that's the case, then like late 2025, early 2026 is probably the last time you can like spec one out from the factory and custom order one off the production line. And I know from when Al bought his C8 Z06, he had to put a non-refundable deposit down like 2 years before getting his car. It's like 500, $1,000. You put the money down to show you're serious. They book your spot in line. Then when it comes time to actually spec the car, you spec the car, and then you take delivery and start payments, right? And that $500,000 deposit goes toward your down payment if you go with the car. And if you bail out last second and they have to sell the car on the showroom floor, they keep your money, right? But I could put 500 or $1,000 down late this year, early next year, and then figure out the money before taking delivery of the car next year, 2027. I'm like this level of delirious in love with this car.
They are cool.
They're
They're cool.
so cool, dude. They're so cool. And they're exactly what I need for real estate because they're not super flashy, right? I would get black with a beige interior. They're not super flashy. They're subtle, but they look good. If you're a car person, they look great,
Mm.
right? It can be loud if you want it to be loud. It can be quiet if you need it to be quiet. It's perfect for anything real estate related, right? So like there's my girl math rationalizing it as a good business decision, right? And as for a personal decision, I don't have to drive any other car because it's a Lexus. So I can stack 400,000 miles on it without issue, right?
Mm.
I don't need to drive the Camaro anymore. I can put it in a storage unit and stop insuring it, right? That's fine. There's no, I can't even, I'm beyond words. It's just a perfect fit, right?
Mhm.
I need you to support this delusion.
I support.
I'm very rarely do I feel so strongly about a car, like emotionally, without even having like driven or seen one in
Mm.
person. But just from what I've seen online, I can tell this car is special and I want one more than anything right now.
Hmm.
And it's been a huge motivating factor this week with real estate stuff.
Good.
Um, but I'm worried that I'm gonna miss out on getting to custom spec my own. I did the math. my spec would be like $110,000, right? If I put a $10,000 down payment, then I'm financing $100K over 5 years. That's a $1,900 a month payment, right? It's
Okay.
like just under $2,000 a month. Significant improvement from the Cadillac Blackwing that I had previously wanted as my nice car, right? Which was $140K. So this is way more reasonable, right? And if we really girl math it, if we really think about it, most people our age have a mortgage on a house, which is like $2,800, $3,000, right? Maybe 25 if it's a smaller house. I don't have that, but I do have rent. But right now I pay all of our rent, which is $1,700. But when Grace starts covering her half, then I'm only going to pay like $800 in rent. So you take the $800 in rent off the $2,800 that a regular person pays in mortgage, and that's the perfect amount for a car payment left over. I'm not buying a house. I'll never buy, like, until I can afford to pay someone to take care of the house, I'm not getting a house. I'm going to stay in this apartment. But I do need a car. And if we get this Lexus, now you're in it too. If we get this Lexus, then I don't have to build a Miata with you, which means that more money stays. Well, okay, I was going to say more money stays in my pocket. It's not. It's either $10,000 to buy a Miata and then an additional like $20,000 building it, or it's $10,000 in a Lexus and then like 5 years of $2,000 payments.
We should get a 8 grand Miata and then take out a $102,000 loan and just build the most badass Miata ever.
But then we have to build it, which takes time. And that's another thing about this car that I really like is that I mean, it takes
Blind Miata has fully ready functioning out of the box V8 swapped NA Miatas for like 50 grand. We could get 2 of those. Just like
I need to show you this car. What's interesting about the development of this car is that the head CEO guy of Lexus, John Lexus, would get in the car. They like developed a prototype, and he got in the car with the head of Gazoo Racing, who is a racing driver himself.
Yeah.
And they would get in the car and do test lap. They didn't know what the numbers were, the specs. Notice I haven't mentioned the torque or horsepower specs because they don't give a fuck. They don't care. The horsepower specs, it's not 500 horsepower and 350 pound-feet of torque. It's not that. It's like 471 horsepower and 398 pound-feet of torque or something like that, because they designed the car based off what they felt it needed while they were driving it. So they would drive it and they would be like, doesn't have enough pickup out of the corners, give it more power. And then they would drive it again and they would be like, it's too stiff in the rear. Like, they would just tune it iteratively based on how it felt. And then the numbers came out to whatever the numbers came out to.
Yeah.
And everybody who drives the car and reviews it says, listen, by today's standards, it's not a fast car, but it is a fun car. It's got a split personality. It's a great driver's car. And I was like, that's exactly why I would want a Miata, not because it's fast, but because it's fun. And this is like a luxury version of a Miata. It's a luxury 10x the expense version of a Miata. But I am not kidding you. I'm dead ass 100% serious. I don't know if it's going to be this weekend because I think I have a lot of work to do. Sometime soon, in the next week, I'm going to Lexus of Melbourne and I'm going to say, what is the process of purchasing one of these vehicles? Talk me through it. And I don't think there's any at the Lexus dealership right now, so I don't think I can drive one or sit in one, but I already know what my spec is going to be. I've already done all the calculations in my head and looked at everything, right? Can't get the convertible because the convertible, the electronics for the convertible take up the space that the rear wheel steering module would take up, right? So you can't get that, right? The only way to get the rear wheel steering module is in the sports dynamic handling package thing. So you get like a Torsen limited slip rear and the rear wheel steering and like a couple other suspension things. And it comes with a carbon fiber roof. So I can't get the sunroof like I wanted, but oh no, right? Because you kind of need the handling package. They've got like a heads-up display, like the little graphical heads-up display thing. You can get illuminated door sills, like I really like on my Lexus today. Want the beige interior. The convertible has a neck warmer, like a little air vent by your neck, which is cool. But if you get the coupe, I don't think you get that option, which is fine. They have Marcus Levinson speakers, which is like some crazy good speaker system. Savage Geese actually has like a program that he uses to calculate how good a sound system is in a car. It's really interesting. But he was like, for a coupe of this size with the engine that it has, these speakers are really good. So like I already know exactly what my spec would be. So I can just walk into Lexus and be like, this is what I want. What's it going to cost to get me there? And then like, what's the purchasing process? Grace hates this idea. She does not on the same page. Doesn't want to do this. But I'm excited about this car, dude. I cannot stop thinking about it. Didn't listen to your life update. Didn't listen to the first half of my update.
That's okay.
All I'm thinking about is this fucking car, dude. I'm that smitten. I'm going to send you some reviews to watch before the next podcast because I'm that excited. How rarely do I get this excited about any car?
I'm rare.
Maybe never. Maybe
Yeah.
never. I've maybe never been this excited about a vehicle in my entire life before. And I'm this passionate about this car.
It's good.
That's my life update.
Cool. Lexus.
Yeah. How long are we making these clips today?
We just go.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What's your business
Chilling.
update this week?
Oh, so this week, I did some back and forth script writing for the ads that I was putting out. I've been using Claude AI in order to help me write the scripts.
I feel that.
Yeah, I feel as though it's a little bit more human. And then also I dove into a new function in 11 Labs. It's not a new function, it's just one I hadn't used. It's a studio function.
Okay.
And you can actually iterate different portions of the text or individual words again and again until you get it all exactly as you like it. And as you have your different like little segments, when you get a version that you like, you can lock it from not regenning anymore.
Okay.
And so it makes instead of doing like 5 different iterations and then splicing them in CapCut,
Right.
you could just do it in 11 Labs and then get it perfect and then just download it as one file. So it makes that process a little bit easier to iterate through. Additionally, I finished, at least for this coming batch of dynamic creative tests I'm going to be running, I finished the moving over to a new growth guide, which is essentially like how you track the growth or the performance of your ad creatives that you put out.
Okay.
So there was kind of like a new template out there from the media buying agency. And I didn't see like a lot of like drastic benefits in it, but I was going through the research document and revising everything anyway, and I saw a lot of like kind of mistakes in my old one. And so while I was at it, I was like, I'll just fill out the new template instead of refilling out the old template.
Right.
So did that. And so something else I did, which was a good amount of time last Sunday, was I realized after all this stuff, after finish all these materials, I was at a point where I had a lot of value scattered amongst a ton of volume. And there was a lot of value, but the massive amount of volume, it just gives me like instant brain fog. Like I pull something up and I'm like, but what about this? What about this? What about this? And I have like 200 pages of shit that's like all useful. And it's like, I'm not ChatGPT. Like I can't store this shit in my head, I verbatim, right?
Right.
And so what I did was I created a framework of how to build ads based off of the media buying agency's strategy, as well as kind of breaking that down and more operationalizing it than they had it. So they were kind of like, focus on the desires, focus on the benefits. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. And so I broke it down to like, use this document. So what I did was I had a framework document, and essentially it's like, who's your target avatar? What are the beliefs you want to instill? What are the benefits you want to feature? Going through what is this, what is the messaging body, or how are you going to structure that into the messaging body? Like stuff like that, right? It's a framework template. And so it's like 10 different bullet points. You just go down the list, and each bullet point has a reference to the associated documents that have information on that. And what I did was I built out a document, like let's say benefits. Like that's great. Like, okay, benefits, what's that mean, right? And so what I did was I built out documents that then like very short bullet pointed list of like what is a benefit and how do you operationally create a benefit?
Okay.
Or what is a belief and how do you operationally foster belief? Stuff like that. And so I created those kind of title documents so that I have this framework document that essentially then you can click the hyperlinks for each segment as you're working through the ad, and it brings up like what it is. You can remind yourself operationally what your goal is. And then under that, it's got the documents that have like useful information, maybe like hooks that you've come up with or messaging strategies or whatever. And you can click those documents and then it just pulls that right up. So it kind of just operationalizes the process a little bit for me and makes it a little bit easier. It's essentially a redevelopment of what I've been trying to do with documenting stuff and simplifying things down for me so that I can work through it more quickly.
Yeah.
Because I know the reason I'm focusing on trying to or not, I would say optimize, but it's more like streamline, because it's, I mean, I guess that could be optimized, right? But essentially the reason I'm focusing on this stuff is because I know that these are the value points of the ads. I just haven't found a way to effectively hit them.
Right.
And so I feel as though it is worth my time to understand these main points. And for me to understand them takes a lot of digging into them.
Mm-hmm.
And through the process of digging, I find new ideas or I come up with new things, and then I add them to this big list, and I don't know what to do with them because I get confused and lost when I try to use the list.
So you got to refine it down a little.
Yeah, so I got to refine it down. So this was that process essentially.
Gotcha.
So I finished that up this week. I did put out some new ads, and I created those, really mulled over them, and I sent them over to you, and you thought they were the best yet.
Mhm.
And I really tried to make them flow. It's a lot more challenging when you have like a set of footage to work with, and you like really can't film more besides just like general gramophone B-roll in my case, right?
Right.
It's hard to find like the clips that hit with your script, even if you write the script in reflection of the clips that you think you have. Because like sometimes something is just a little bit off, or like,
Right.
you have a clip that is related to what you're talking about and it's a good clip, but the segment you want to use doesn't quite fit in lengthwise and you can't splice it right. So there's like nuances there. And so it can be challenging to get through that process, but I did manage to get something that I thought was good
Okay.
overall. I thought it felt as though it was more compelling. And then, I've been focusing more on desires, instilling belief, highlighting benefits, and targeting one person with a mass problem or desire. So really honing in on that has kind of been my focuses, as was last week as well. Um, so I'm also thinking that, I'm testing the ads right now. They're getting small amounts of spend, which like I'm not surprised by. There are two variables that I've previously tested that have shown to have slightly worse performance that I still had in these ads. And so what I'm going to do is run this batch and then run batches. I have a one that I'm going to run without music,
Mhm.
because I've shown in the past to myself that music wasn't really very well. I thought maybe like it was just because I had some songs that weren't great, and so I tried a different song, and I thought maybe like there was a copyright issue, and that's why Facebook wasn't pushing it really hard. And
Yeah.
so I went through and I did like the company's called Epidemic Sounds, but they have all licensed music and sound effects and stuff, and so I used them for this audio, hoping that like maybe that would help it out. And because I would be surprised if like music just generally does worse.
Right.
It would surprise me. I mean, I've shown that in my tests, but I just wanted to reconfirm it with this new strategy and new outline.
Right.
I just thought maybe the previous ads were so terrible that like,
Could be conflating variables.
simplicity was like the only thing getting them through.
Right.
Right. And so they have low spend right now. What I'm thinking I'll doing is I'm going to try and um take the 3, cut the music out, and then I have a variation on the hook
Mhm.
that I can do, but it's essentially I'm chopping it down because the messaging has like a question in it right at the start, right after the main hook. And so I can chop the hook out and just start with that messaging.
Right.
And it can almost be like a hook because
Right.
it's a kind of like a posed question, so it could be good. So essentially I'm going to take the ones I got and then chop out the little hook portion and then try music and no music in a separate dynamic creative test. I'll run that tomorrow and see what kind of spend I get.
Right.
Just out of curiosity's sake. But
Yeah.
something else I've been doing this week is re-listening to Hormozi podcast. So I've been listening to his podcasts 3 or 4 times, like on repeat. Like I'll listen to it once, and then I'll right back to back. I'll listen to it again,
Right.
and then I'll listen to another podcast, and then I'll go back to that same podcast a day later. So I listen to it 3 or 4 times or more, um, and just like really trying to dive into what he's saying, what he's presenting, how I can apply it to my business stuff. and working through that. So that's kind of been like a newer development for me. Usually I listen to podcasts that I really like gain value from like twice,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been like, I get to twice and then I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I want to listen to it again. And then I force myself to do like another 2 times and I get a lot more value out of it. So I've
Good.
just been, it's kind of like a reward cycle. And so I've been getting value out of it. So I just continue to do it at this point.
Yeah.
But pushing for that more and more. Um, I've been using time at like in the car, maybe when I'm not listening to something or in the shower or whatever, to kind of like let my mind wander to come up with hooks.
Mm-hmm.
And I've come up with some pretty good hooks. And so now I have like a running notes thing on my phone
Yeah.
of like I'll just type it in and then I'll like figure out how to format it later.
Yeah.
Um, and so I've been typing that stuff in and going through that. And so I've been doing that for a couple weeks, but it's been working well. So I wanted to bring it up on the podcast.
Good.
And then,
Yeah, I find with podcasts that I can listen to, and I find this with most things actually, even stuff I find interesting. I will listen to it, I'll find it interesting, I'll log it in my brain, and then I'll forget it entirely a day later. I
mm,
have to say it out loud for me to remember at all. So, like, the way I was able to recite all this Lexus stuff is that every day after work and every evening when I'm eating dinner watching one of these videos, I spit everything back out at Grace again. And the poor girl has just had to hear me fucking sped out about this for like fucking a whole week now. Um, but that's how I memorize everything. So now I find, and I know this is one of my character traits now. So now when I'm listening to like a Hormozi podcast and there's a bit of information that I think is good, I'll pause it and then I'll try to repeat it out loud and then I'll go back and then I'll say it again. And then if it's really good, I'll put it in my quotes app. But for me, saying it out loud is what logs it in the memory bank for me. But that's like
sorry,
my version
got you
of
on.
listening
Cool.
to it several times.
Yeah. I definitely gain value to rinsing and repeating information to myself.
Right.
People need to be reminded more than they need to be taught, and I'm including in that. And so helping the reminder of just repeating and repeating definitely helps
Yeah.
kind of just drill it in.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm hoping that I can get some version of these dynamic creative tests or dynamic creatives I've made to actually work
Yeah.
to an extent. It's been 13 days since I launched my last dynamic creative test, or since I published that campaign. So um, I guess 10 days probably something like that since I kind of was in the dynamic creative field area. And ever since then, I've just been working on improving the research document, digging in more, trying to figure out really why my ads aren't working,
Right.
stuff like that. So I'm hoping that I can get some version of these to work because I feel like they're overall better.
Yeah. I
Um,
agree.
if they don't work, I'm gonna try like much more cut down versions of these. And if those don't work, I think I'm gonna fall off the rails and do like stupid B-roll content that like people are just like, oh, cute, just to like try something.
Fuzzy
Uh,
animals.
yeah, like I'm gonna go to like Florida Tech Gardens and film the ground phone like in some of the, like the pretty flowers over there
Yeah.
or some like shit like that. Like
Right.
if it makes me money and it converts, I couldn't care less. But like, it's not stuff that I'm like, you know, I mean, I'm not particular about excited about making these, so I don't know why I'm bitching about that in particular. But it's uh, it would be really surprising to me if like the thing that converted was like silent B-roll of a ground phone in a field.
Me
And I guess that would be like awesome in some way because I'm like, great, this is super easy to iterate. But it would also be like, really, fuck you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like a double-edged sword of like, it's awesome that the hook is short because it's so easy to iterate,
Right.
but it also sucks because no one gives a shit about the other 45 seconds you spent a ton of time on.
Has your mentor taken a look at the ads?
He thought the newest ones I created were my best yet.
I agree.
And he's been really pushing me a lot on the belief benefit avatar feedback side.
Mm.
And also pushed me to like dive into the research document again.
Yeah.
So he helped me out in that avenue and he thought they were the best yet. So
I would be
that's good.
surprised if his winning ad that is resulting in putting tens of thousands of dollars of ad spend a month is B-roll of a flower with a gramophone. I think it's probably
Yeah.
the effort that you're putting in.
I would
Just a suspicion.
yeah, and that's what I would expect too.
Yeah.
I think that some of the ads that like it's really tough because well, advertising is hard in general, but um TikTok is a really different platform than like Instagram and Facebook. Because TikTok is like a lot of people who just like to watch shit and it has terrible conversion to purchase.
Yeah.
And so it's like a lot of the B-roll stuff that you see, like, oh, this is cute. Like Sammy will bring me stuff and she'll be like, look at this video, it's so cute. And I'm like, yeah, it is super cute, but does it make you want to buy it? And she's like, no, I just thought it was cute. I'm like, exactly.
Right.
Right. And so it's like stuff that is cute or stuff that is funny or can convert well, like those things incorporated into an ad that's goal is to convert can work well. But an ad that's primary goal is to like just look cute doesn't necessarily convert.
Right.
And like I've seen ads that are like entertaining that convert, which sole purpose is basically to entertain. Like Red Bull is like all of that,
Right.
right? Um,
But Red
but
Bull's not trying to get you to click the link right now.
also I don't think Red Bull is advertising to 55-year-old grandmothers,
Right.
right? And so like the target market for Red Bull is like honestly probably teens, although they wouldn't admit it, up until like people in their 30s.
Right.
Like that would be the market range,
Right.
right? But like people, I don't think I've ever seen anyone drinking a Red Bull over the age of like 35 or 40.
Yeah, probably not.
Like if
Probably
I
on
saw like a 65-year-old with a Red Bull in your hand, I'm like, you need help. Like like because it would just be like so off-putting to what like the brand is,
Yeah.
right? Not saying that like 65-year-old can't drink Red Bull, drink whatever the fuck you want, but like
No, I'm just
it's
wondering because
you know
like if I'm thinking about a 65-year-old with a Red Bull right now, and my first thought is that good for you? And then I think about it and I go, is it good for me?
no, it's
I drink
not.
them all the time.
But
So
like
like
their
maybe I should.
stunt videos are dope. You know what
Huh?
I mean? Like the Red Bull stunt videos are also dope.
Oh, for
You
sure.
know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's the like that's why like like that's why they stopped doing like the cigarette advertisements on race cars or like
Yeah.
the alcohol advertisements. Cause like I'll see the Jägermeister car and I'm like maybe I should start drinking. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like
Marlboro.
there's
The
just like
Marlboro.
something about it that's
Yeah.
like yeah. You know what I mean?
Dude, have you seen the America edit on TikTok recently? It's the Linkin Park. I wanna heal. I
No.
wanna feel. It's that song cut together with like clips of like grizzly bears fighting and like a bald eagle grabbing a fish out of the water and like the Revenge of the Sith
Yeah.
lightsaber fight on the Mustafar, like sick like clips. And it's
Yeah.
like this is what America's all about. But people have been putting that edit to like all kinds of stuff. It's like how it choose to feel 5 gum, and then it's like the awesome edit or like,
Oh yeah.
but like my immediate thought for making brain rot for your gramophone is being like, the feeling when you connect with your grandkid over like a common ad, and then it's the America edit, but like you throw in clips of the gramophone in there.
Yeah.
But
Maybe that would convert.
I don't think it would convert. I think it'd get views, but I don't think it'd get buyers, and that's the difference, right?
Yeah, that's the tough part. And so I'll try the B-roll thing.
Yeah.
I'll try that out as well.
It could also help to buy Alexis LC500 and figure it out later.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm risking it all on a business and figuring it out later. That's my current status.
But a business doesn't rev to 7,100 RPM.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And it arguably definitely causes me a lot more stress, sleep deprivation, pain and suffering, at least right now.
I just need
Than like
someone.
a super comfortable car.
I just need someone to be on my side with. I need one person to be like, sounds good. Ryan didn't turn it down. I ran into Ryan in the hallway yesterday. I haven't talked to him in a long time. I miss him. But I told him about this, and he was like, honestly, not a terrible idea. And I was like, you think so? And he was like, yeah. I mean, like, if you're gonna miss your shot on this car if you don't try something now, he has no idea about like the business side of like I need money. So he doesn't have all the variables, but he was like, maybe. But like, if someone who is familiar with like what I do in my life was like, this is even moderately not a bad idea, that's all I need. Game over. I'm going for it. I'm gonna guess you on it. I'll get what else do you have? What else?
I don't know if I should encourage this. But
Think about it. If I buy it, you get to drive it.
that is cool. I don't think that's
You get none of the risk.
I don't think I should encourage you to accrue long-term pain for my temporary gain.
Maybe,
I
but
think
it's
that's
also
bad
my temporary gain. It's our temporary gain, but only
for your
I.
long-term pain.
That's right, but just me. So it's two for the price of one. which is
think I should discourage this.
I'm gonna keep trying. It
Okay.
flies in the face of the whole like everyone's over leveraged and like rich people are rich because they act like they're poor and poor people are poor because they act like they're rich. It's exactly that. I'm very aware of the hypocrisy happening here,
Yeah.
and I embrace it. It's who I am now. I'm that guy. But notice, and I'll say this isn't defining who I am as a person because I still don't want a house. I'm still not wearing fancy clothing. I'm wearing a swim trunks under this, right? I would like a swimsuit and Blue Marlin t-shirts to be my attire for the rest of my life, right?
Yeah.
I wear flip-flops pretty much everywhere I go. I'm not buying other crazy shit. And I told Grace this. I was like, everyone suffers from lifestyle creep. Greg has Louis Vuitton belts and Rolexes and shit. I don't give a fuck about any of that. I have lifestyle creep in one area and only one area. I don't want a boat. I don't want a fancy house. I don't want the Gucci sunglasses. I don't need the fancy anything. All I want is some nice cars.
Hmm.
And that's it. And then Grace astutely pointed out that's one of the most expensive forms of lifestyle creep. To which I argued Louis Vuitton bags add up really quickly because each Louis Vuitton bag is like one or multiple months of a car payment.
It's yeah, it's an interesting logic train. I still don't think I
I'll
can.
get okay. Well, what's your next? What's your next business? Well, you'll come around by the end of this podcast. I'm going to sell you on it. It's my job to sell now. What's your next
I
business?
think I'm
bullet
going to be
point?
pushed into a corner on it. I'll just say yes.
Push you to the passenger seat, but not the back seats because they're too small to fit people. I'll show you photos. The
I
format.
do know that because Top Gear reviewed them and they talked about how horrendous all the back seats on all modern cars were, and they specifically talked about that.
This one in particular, you know how the back
Yeah.
floor mat, like the front floor mat in the Camaro is like this big, and the back floor mat is like literally this big.
Yeah.
The Lexus one is thinner than it is long. It's literally a rectangle. That's how
Yeah.
small the floor mat is. Anyways, continue. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. So just been working through the ads, and then I've been using Hemingway in order to edit my ad copy and scripts down to a grade level that is understandable for most audiences.
Right.
And a lot of analysis went into my old ads, and I realized that they suck, which is good news because if I thought they were great after all this, it would mean that I didn't learn anything.
Yeah.
So those are my business updates for this week.
Those are good updates. And the new ad is really good. It's a lot better than the old ones. It's a significant improvement.
I think so too, and so I'm hoping I see it get some spend, and it performs a little bit would be nice to see, but we'll see, and we'll keep iterating and testing until we get something that does. So, so what do you have for businesses us this week?
I've got a pretty good amount. So last week we left off on me discovering that Facebook ads might be the key to getting crazy amounts of leads, right? The top agent, I think, is the only one actually running Facebook leads. I don't think anyone else is. So that led me to start learning about Facebook ads, right? Now, at the beginning of the podcast last week, I talked about how I just got ahead of myself and I was like, I'm just going to boost an Instagram post just to see what happens, right? So I first boosted that on Facebook and Instagram, and I got my first lead before I ran even my first ad. I was able to find the name and number of the guy, and I found that his age was older than anticipated. He was about 80 years old. And so I called him, no answer. I texted and emailed him, no answer. That's okay. He's an older guy. Not a big deal, right? It's just one of the leads, and I'm probably going to get a bunch of them from this, right? So no big deal. This would become a trend as we progress, but we'll get to that. So I boost just regular Facebook posts, and so I make a dedicated ad. I use the Facebook public library, like we talked about, and I pulled up some example ads to follow. Some of the ads date back years. Different people are paying for ads for different amounts of time, but if an ad is still active from 2022, it's either that they paid for it in 2022, then went dormant, then they started paying for it again, or they've been paying the entire time, which means it's a working ad, right? So I created ads similar to that, and ultimately I decided I'm just going to pick one. I'm going to pick one of the longer running ones that is one of the simplest to make. And the format of the ad is pretty simple. It's just, there's equity in your home. Do you want to know what it is? Call me. I'll tell you how much free money you have sitting in your home. That's the premise, right? It's a static image, and it's got a form that you fill out. You press the button and you type in your name and number. And since you're doing it in Instagram or Facebook, it auto-populates that. So with 2 button clicks, I have your information and I can reach out to you, right? I don't have your address, but I'm going to reach out and be like, hi, I'm here to help. So I made that first ad, and then I thought I ran an engagement campaign on Facebook Meta. Turns out I didn't. I just ran a leads campaign. Um, so for reference, I'm not doing ads to make sales. I'm doing ads to generate leads. So instead of
Yeah.
directing someone to a website to make a purchase, I'm asking them for their information so I can reach out to them. I thought an engagement campaign was like an early campaign that you put out there to like get people to like your posts just to tell Facebook that you're real. I didn't know that engagement was a synonym for like lead or sale or whatever else it was. So,
Oh, no, it is to warm up the account. But
right,
it's,
but
but
it's
it's not to
also
warm up the people. It's to warm up the account so Facebook knows you're real.
right. An engagement is like an actual selection.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's not a descriptor of the campaign.
Right.
I thought it was, so I fucked it up. So I ran it. Doesn't matter. I actually saw the ad pop up in my feed, and so I clicked the button and signed up with my information so that I could then log into my ad account and see what does it look like when you get a lead show up from an ad, right?
Yeah.
And you could start seeing the data and stuff like that. So I let the first real ad run from Monday to Friday this week. So that's 3 days at $20 of spend, and then the last 2 days at $30 of spend. Um,
Cool.
it says the last 2 days at $30 of spend. That's what I wrote, but I think I did the last 2 days at $50 of spend. Oh, it's an increase of $30.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's 20 for the first 3 and then 50 for the last 2. So today is the last day of that ad running, and it's at $50 of spend today. So, because it's a Friday. So I have some information that I collected last night. It's going to be different before the ad ends. But so far I'm at 1,142 views, 777 reach, which I think is different from views. I think reach is the number of different people that have seen the ad at least once. Views could be the same person viewing it multiple times.
Hmm.
That's my understanding of it. And so far,
I never looked into it, but that's good to know.
Yeah,
That's probably right.
I think that's the case.
Yeah.
And then I think reach is also what the ad is responsible for getting you, not any organic growth, because it counts them differently. But I have to go
Because it comes down to the attribution data.
yeah.
So yeah.
And so far I've gotten 6 leads from it, right?
Okay.
So before I get into the quality of the leads, what do I actually do with the leads, right? Because the way it displays to me in Facebook Lead Center is essentially a table view of like first name, last name, phone number, email address, what ad they clicked on to get the information, right? So the top agent had mentioned at the last seminar that I went to that he uses Facebook Lead Center as his CRM, which is a big deal for me because I have not been able to get comfortable with any CRM that I've used. I don't find myself waking up excited to go check it. I don't find myself following up with it and like logging when I talk to people. I just don't care, right? And I kind of had this realization when I started using Facebook Lead Center, which is that I get no positive reward for going and checking the database that I use to log information. I do get a positive reinforcement when I go check Facebook because there could be new leads there. And then while I'm there looking at new leads, if there is a new lead, I'll log them into the same table as everyone else, where I then can naturally, next step, follow up with everyone else. Or if I go in and I see there's no one there, I'm like, oh, I'm one click away from my table of people that could end up being leads. I need to go reach out to them. So I get more positive reinforcement to actually go check the app. So knowing that this would be the case, I started to categorize all the leads. I started to pull in the other leads that I have been keeping in a Google spreadsheet into Facebook Lead Center, right? Started to organize everyone. You can change from a table view into a pipeline view, which is essentially like stage 1, intake, brand new lead, never reached out. Stage 2, you've reached out to them but haven't heard back. Stage 3, you're in talks but haven't signed anything, etc. Right? And you can drag their name from box to box. And I work way better with that user interface when it comes to leads.
Yeah.
So that's starting to work well for me, right? And I have also found that in Facebook, you can schedule reminders to go reach out to them and notes. In the previous CRM I was using, Real Geeks, I was not able to edit any notes. So if I mistyped something and hit enter, it's stuck there. With Facebook, I can go in and edit the previous notes I've made. Additionally, I can schedule reminders with labels, which I don't think I was able to do in the last one either. And it'll show if I have a reminder set for someone, it shows up as upcoming, even if it's not for like 3 months. If it's within 24 hours, it says due soon. And then for like a 10-minute window around when it actually hits, it says due right now or just due, right? The problem is it only shows up for like that 10-minute block and then it disappears from the table. If you go into the specific person, it'll show you have a past to do reminder, but there's no way to see that from the table overview. So if I miss someone, I might not know that I'm eventually going to have like multiple hundreds or thousands of people in the CRM. I'm not going to go through each person every day, right? So I need to see from a top level what the deal is. Additionally, I can only schedule reminders 3 months out from today, which is a bummer because, for example, I just helped a client get an apartment, right? I'm not going to follow up with them every month. I'm going to follow up with them in 6 months to see if they want to stay at their apartment or sign up with a new one, or if I can help them in any way, right?
Mm.
So I want to set up a 6-month reminder. Can't do that in Facebook. So I went to my Google Calendar, which is where I keep my schedule usually, and I set up a task for 6 months from now for that person, right? And then I had the idea that I can set up all of my reminders in Google, not just the ones 6 months out, but all the reminders in Google. And every time I make a Google reminder, I'll go into Facebook and then I'll set up a reminder in Facebook so that it shows upcoming next to their name. So I know I have a reminder for them, even if it's not for 6 months. And instead of scheduling out 6 months in Facebook, because I can't do that, I'll just go to the latest possible date and then I'll title it reminder bump to 3 months past that, right?
Yeah.
So I still have the mark.
Mm.
And I know to check on that person, like their profile, to update that profile. So the TLDR is it's starting to work for me, right? So as I've collected leads this week, I got 6 from this ad. I got 2 or 3 from the other boosted ad. So I've got like 9 leads. And then I've got the other like 20 or 25 that I've had previously in the Google spreadsheet that I'm now putting in Facebook Lead Center, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now I have habitualized myself to start checking Facebook in the morning to see if there's new leads, calling the people that I have either in there or as a task reminder in my Google Calendar, and then going through and updating everything at the end of the day after I've done all that. And so it has been a very good week in terms of getting my feet on the ground with the CRM and habitualizing myself with what my routine for lead gen should be.
Yeah.
Right? Very good things. I made a second boosted post because the first boosted post actually got me 2 or 3 ads. So I made another one. I decided to do a free home evaluation boost. So it's not equity in your home. It's rephrased, but it's the same message. And I decided to boost it for 5 days at $7.50 per day. And I haven't gotten any leads from that yet. Interestingly, this one doesn't have a form attached to it because it's a Facebook only boost. And I have it linked to Messenger to see if anybody messages me. Because if an 80-year-old goes in and doesn't know what he's doing and accidentally clicks the submit button and I have his information, he might not pick up the phone. But if he's messaging me on Facebook Messenger, that'll work. I'm getting there. So far, only 1 lead has actually picked up the phone. So of the like 8 or 10 leads I've gotten from advertising this past week, I've called all of them multiple times. I've texted all of them at least once, and I've emailed all of them. And only 1 person has picked up the phone. It was an 85-year-old man's daughter who picked up the phone, and she said, "Who is this?" And I was like, "Hi, this is Mason. I'm looking for whatever his name is." And she was like, "I'm his daughter. Like, can I help you?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm his real estate agent. You know, he reached out asking for a evaluation of the equity in his home, so I'm touching base with him to see how I can help him." And she was like, "He's not interested, thanks," and hung up on me. Totally fine, respectable. I understand her position, right? But he's an 85-year-old guy. Older people sometimes don't always know how Facebook works. He might not have meant to sign up for the thing, and even if he did, he might not even have power of attorney to sell his home. So how do I figure out ways to get my ads directed to people who will actually answer legitimately?
Yeah.
Because what I have started to realize is that Facebook has learned, oh, show this ad to people in their 80s because they respond. So now it's mostly people in their 70s and 80s. I haven't gotten anyone younger than 75 as a lead from this yet. Which is a bummer. And so that's why I set the boost as a messenger post. Because if I even get 1 from the same amount of spend, which I'm not doing, but say for example, right, it's a more qualified lead. So I don't know how I'm going to tackle this moving forward. I don't know how to get Facebook to send the ad to younger people because I can do it technically by setting up age parameters, but I can't legally because as far as real estate laws go, you can't selectively market to people. You can make advertisements targeting demographics, but it has to be shown to everyone, which I'm fine with. I'm happy to help 85-year-old guys. The problem is if Facebook only shows it to older senile folks who, aren't selling their home.
Yeah, I would say give it a little bit more time for data, first off. Secondly, you can create something called a saved audience.
Uh-huh.
And in a saved audience, you can create specific target demographics, but you can set it up as such that it's not as though Facebook will only show it to those people. It will just prioritize those people.
Okay.
But the other thing too is that the real base point for how Facebook decides who to show it to is what it deems your target avatar or demographic is based on your advertisement.
Okay.
So that's where the research becomes really important, because if you're able to, if you want to target 40-year-old, 45-year-old couples in New York who want to move to Florida, then you're going to have to research what are the experience of 45-year-olds trying to buy homes, right? And really target your ads around that, right? Static ads generally have a lower cost per CPM, so there's a lower cost to reach 1,000 people. But video ads generally convert better,
Right.
generally speaking. And so creating ads around those, if that's your target avatar, target persona, is really, really valuable. And that's where research comes in really good. Reddit is an awesome place to research. Google in general,
Yeah.
right? Figure out what Instagram and Facebook's those people follow traditionally. Public Facebook groups are free to look at, and you don't have to subscribe to them. So that can be a good resource as well.
Yeah.
And then taking in a notes on what are their problems, what solutions do they currently have with those problems, if any. How can you frame your advertisement in order to address those problems in a way that's neat and clean, that's also accessible to a majority of the audience? What are their targets in terms of what do they want to hit? What do they want to avoid?
Well, that's making like a targeted video ad, which
Right.
makes sense to me, right? Because then like an 85-year-old isn't going to want
But
to listen to talk.
it's even the more I listen to Hormozi and the more I listen to Eugene Schwartz and the more I try to go through the advertisement process, there's a lot of leverage to be had in creating an advertisement that is targeted, even if it's put out to a mass audience.
Right. Two different things though. Because I'm looking at replicating the static ad that I have reason to believe works for other people
Yeah.
and trying to massage that into working
Yeah.
while also writing video ads.
Yeah, if you want to try and massage the static ad a little bit, you could
Demographic?
you could target it as like, or you could change the wording as like looking for an equity evaluation in your Brevard home or in your Melbourne home, right? Stuff like that. Target it kind of in the wording, putting it by location, then creating a saved audience so that it prioritizes those people could be a way to do that.
So you set up the save audience using demographics and area, right?
Yeah, it's a setting within Facebook. You can create a saved audience. When you're actually creating the ad set, you can select whether to add a previously saved audience that you've made.
Right.
But those saved audiences are created like in another part of Facebook. And you can create those by like demographics or location or whatever. And that's essentially like a preference.
Is there a benefit to using a saved audience rather than making a new audience with the same selection criteria?
Um, well, you can. I think in the saved audience, if I'm recalling, there's a little bit more variability in terms of like what you can actually do.
Okay.
And then I don't remember. I think there's a way in order to preference a saved audience. I think a saved audience can be more like a preference rather than a direct filter.
Right.
It just depends on how you set it. I have to actually look at the settings to like remind myself how to do it, because it's been about a month since I created a saved audience, because I really don't use them very often.
Got it.
But if you want to target it down, that is a way to do it.
I think that's what I'm going to try doing moving forward. I'm going to wait for this ads to wrap up tonight and see what like the total fallout of everything was, and then look at how much money I want to spend next week on ads. I don't have a video ad yet, but I have started writing a few of them, and Grace has also started writing a few of them too. But we haven't filmed and sent them yet because I want to see if I can get something that I know works for other people to work for me. But that has yet to happen. But it's been a really good week for getting my feet on the ground with how to use the CRM and then how to integrate that with my calendar and make it work for me.
Yeah.
So that has been positive. I also revisited my offer generation document, which breaks down the Hormozi value equation into different variables, because I want to start adding more fidelity to that as an offer for people, right? So you're kind of answering the question, why work with me instead of another agent, right? Or why use a real estate agent at all? And one of the important variables that I found was that my dream outcome I had listed for, I have got a value equation for buyers and one for sellers, right? And under dream outcome, I had written the same thing for both of them. And I had written the dream outcome for every customer is exactly the same, to buy or sell their home for the best value possible. That's what I had initially written like 8 months ago. And when I revisited it, as I was reading the sentence, I was autofilling in the second half of the sentence in my brain. And I read every dream outcome is, and I filled in with my brain, different for everyone. And then I read the same for everyone. And I was like, wait, what? And I didn't have an understanding at the time, but I have since come to realize that the dream outcome is different for everybody, right? Some people want to sell their home fast. Some people don't care how long it takes. They just want a good deal. Some people want a personal relationship with their agent. Other people want like a strictly professional relationship where you talk as little as possible, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants something different. And what I realized is that the dream outcome might be similar for everybody in that they want to buy or sell property, but the way you get there is different. And the method of understanding the dream outcome is a big part of sales. It's getting to know your client and getting
Yeah.
to understand their goals. And so what's interesting is that part of the value equation for dream outcome isn't it's understanding what the customer wants. So part of working with me is that I'm going to learn what you want and then help you get there, rather than assuming I know what you want and then helping you get there, right? Or telling you what you want.
Mhm.
And so that was an important distinction for me. Um, after working on that a little bit, I started to develop a listing client timeline because coming up in late August, we have some clients that I think are going to list their house with us, or at the very least, we're going to get a listing appointment and have the opportunity to get them as clients. They haven't signed anything, but I have a good feeling. But anyways, I wanted to outline a timeline of what's every touch point between me and the client from listing appointment or before listing appointment all the way to close and after close, right? Because especially with the whole lifetime value thing I've been talking about recently, I want to better define for me, how can I make tasks and put them in my Google Calendar and my CRM to make sure that I follow up with these people, to make sure I'm actually executing on all the cool ideas I have in my head. Because I have ideas for like outreach, and I have ideas for like getting closing gifts and helping them advertise and stuff like that. But I need to make sure that I actually follow through on these. Otherwise, they're just ideas, and I think I'm a better agent than I really am. So I started writing out that timeline and brainstorming with Grace, and that was a lot of fun. And I actually think I'm going to end up renting a room at Florida Tech like we used to do when we were working on our project together, and brainstorm on a whiteboard, because I find that a lot of good ideas come up when I'm working in that space.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to do something similar this week. Um, so I
That's
have,
why I have a whiteboard at home.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I have written identifying opportunities to go above and beyond, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do.
Cool.
During that work lunch I had previously mentioned, our out-of-state clients messaged us back. All is well with them. Previously, we had looked at like 9 or 10 homes while they were here. They had to fly back home for like a personal reason, and they had to delay their home buying process for like a month or two. Right? They messaged us back. They were like, "Hey, everything's going well. Let's put an offer on this house that we had shown them while they were down here." Right? It's a $265,000 house, but the roof is old, so it's gonna need a new roof. And they're accepting finance offers, meaning they know it needs a new roof. And
Mhm.
so they wouldn't be marketing it if they weren't expecting us to ask them to put a new roof on it, right? And so we bid 250 plus a new roof. And they countered with their listing price 265, but with a new roof, right? And so we talked to our clients about it, and we were like, "Hey, we think this is a fair price for the house. If you want it, this is a good price point to get at, right?" And they denied that. They said, "We're going to stick with our 250. We just think it needs more work." We were like, "That's cool." We told the sellers. They came down to 260 plus a new roof. So now there's only a $10,000 gap between the two, right? And I'm confident that if our clients came up $5,000, we could get the sellers down another $5,000 and meet somewhere in the middle. But ultimately, they were like, "Nope, this is going to be like the home that we're going to keep for a little while longer than previous homes. So we want it to be the right one. And this isn't that one at this price point. So we're going to walk on it." Okay. So now they're coming back down in September, and we're going to go show them more properties. But I think by September 17th is when the Fed announces the new interest rates. And if rates go down, that means they can get a better mortgage, which is good,
Mhm.
but there's going to be more buyers, which is bad because it means that they have demonstrated to Grace and I that they would like a good deal on a house. They want a house for like 10 to 15% lower than its listing price, right? Which
Yeah.
is not going to happen once once interest rates come down because there's going to be a lot more buyers, and so sellers are going to have a lot more opportunity to sell. So I have to have that conversation with them um, at some point before they come down next. And we can always go back and put offers on homes that we've already put offers on and, got a counter that they didn't like. We can always go back to them and say, hey, you had previously countered with X. I'd like to go with Y. Um, so all that is good, right? So that's the status of my advertising and clients at the moment. Um, I have found that with the advertisements, a lot of it is like um, making the ad and then running the ad and then letting it run and then nurturing the leads as they come in, right? But I don't have a ton of money to throw at ads nonstop. And I want to try to figure out how to make the static ads convert before dedicating a ton of time into a video ad, right? Um, so I'm writing video ads, but I'm not committing to filming them yet or doing anything with that because it'd be nice to do a listing video and then make that into an ad. But B, also I want to try to figure out what's happening with the static ads and getting more familiar with Facebook Ad Center first, right? But all of that is kind of slow moving. That only takes like an hour or two of work a day. So instead, I have this new thought, which is there a way that I can reach out to people who I don't know personally, but know by proximity? So they're warm leads, right? And almost guarantee a response. And the only way I can think of doing that is by texting people, but I might not have their number, right? So like here's what my idea is. I'm going to make handwritten letters to my college professors and high school teachers. And I'm going to say, "Hey, you know, I was a student of yours and I used all the teachings that you gave me to go on to become an engineer. And now I'm a successful engineer with Northrop Grumman. And I really love my career. But I find that it's not very philosophically satisfying. And so now I want to give back to everybody who has helped me get to where I am today and be as happy as I am. So I'm now a practicing real estate agent. And I'm out here like trying to help people that have helped me in the past. Right. So I'd love to hear more about your real estate goals and catch up. Let's meet up for a coffee sometime. First coffee's on me. And then it's a $10 Starbucks gift card in the note, right? And then send those letters out to everyone. And like the Facebook ads are costing me like 100 or 200 bucks a week. And so if instead I do like $50 a week to these gift cards, that's 5 letters a week I can send out. So last night I went and got all my yearbooks from the storage unit and I started going through literally every person that I know from the yearbook. And I realized it's not just teachers. There's a lot of kids in there that I know by proxy. They know of me. We've had conversations a few times, but we don't have each other's numbers. We don't follow each other on social media. But those are people who, if I reach out to them, they'll recognize me, and recognition leads to trust, right? So that's an in. And so I was like, okay, I'm actually going to record everybody that I know. And then I'm going to have a whole database of like every person I've ever fucking met. And then I can just go person by person and reach out to them one at a time. If it's an Instagram follow, if it's a DM, if it's a written letter, right? I could just go one by one and crank them all out. So I started moving through my elementary school, other elementary school, high school, and Space Coast Crew yearbooks and the faculty and staff at FIT. Um, to try to find as many people as I could. I'm maybe like 2/3 of the way through everything and I have like 600 names. So I have no shortage of people to reach out to and touch base with. Um, and so I think I'm going to start doing some of the handwritten letters and factoring some of the yearbook reach out points to try to find people.
Mm.
Even if they're not leads, at the very least, it's someone who already knows me. It's not like they don't know me from anything. And it's something that I can kind of do passively while I let the ads run and collect data. Um, so that's an update on real estate. There's an additional update that I have, which is that you and I have a business opportunity to sell some of the IP that we created like a year ago when we were
Yeah.
doing business together,
Yep.
which we're working on later today. But that has the potential to be like a good paycheck and then also maybe a recurring paycheck.
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
excited about that.
Yeah. Definitely something I'm open to. With the condition that it's not a regular replacement of my time,
Mhm.
and can present value from the base material that already exists.
Yeah, I think
But there is a lot of value in the material that I scanned over, and so I think those two things are feasible.
yeah,
I'm happy to work on it. Um, it's just I'm always like very very cautious in
right.
what I introduce into my life and why, especially more and more so over the course of time.
Yeah.
So
And in talks, it sounds like this is a paper deliverable only.
yeah,
And then if there's gaps, other people will fill in those gaps
yeah.
and make it complete to what they want. So we don't even have to go in and finish stuff. We can just deliver what we have and collect a paycheck.
Yeah, there is like there's a certain bar that I'd want the paper to be at minimally.
Yeah.
Like basic updates in terms of like dates
Yeah.
and like, just basic premise stuff.
Probably scrubbing names, stuff
Yeah,
like that.
scrubbing names, dates, reviewing outlines, um, just spruce up
Mhm.
stuff. Because if we're putting something out there, I'd like it to at least be like close to an acceptable bar
Yeah.
of work. But no, it's definitely enticing. It's definitely interesting, and so I'm open to we'll work on that later today. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking forward to it. I think that in total, it'll be like maybe 15 or 20 hours of work max, including like conversing and like sending over the deliverables and stuff like that.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think it's
We'll
going to take
see
a ton of time.
how much it. Yeah, we'll see how the conversation goes
Yeah.
too.
I think
Uh,
at the minimum, it'll be several $1,000s for each of us, which even as a one-time payment would be fucking awesome. But if it's recurring, like this happens again in a few months, that is even,
Yeah, it would be definitely a really nice boost.
yeah,
Um, and so yeah, the opportunity there and valuable information that um I could definitely see how someone else could find it valuable to their endeavors.
yeah. It's cool
So
because I've never sold IP before.
yeah,
Like I've never sold a design or like a system or anything like that. But this would be the first time selling a system, which
yeah,
I think is
yeah.
really
It's
cool.
kind of interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's all I got.
cool.
That's my whole business update.
Want to do a brief lessons learned?
I don't have any lessons learned this week.
Oh, I just got a couple
Yeah,
rattle
what's
off.
up?
I tried to break them up this week because last week I like shredded them all together.
I gotcha.
So this week, lessons learned and also continuing lessons learned is I'm trying to not reinvent the wheel. But definitely growth takes repetitions.
Yeah.
And so, looking back at where I was 6 months ago, made a lot of progress and strides from there. Or at least I feel as though I have. And, it's just going to take reps.
Yeah.
So just continuing to pump that stuff out, reanalyze, reiterate, um, understand what's working, what's not working,
Right.
and trying to figure that out from a data and feedback perspective rather than what I think worked and what I think didn't work.
Right.
It's challenging because analysis requires you to think at least to some extent. Um,
It's mostly thinking
yeah,
analysis, right?
which is tough because um I find that what I think does well sometimes often doesn't do well, and then what I think doesn't do well, or I think won't do well, does well.
Mhm.
And so that's part of the reason why I'm open to the B-roll thing. Do I think it will convert? No, but like also I've been wrong enough times to where I don't know. Um, I'm trying this first because this has a very cool. I'm trying like the current ads I have because they have very clear connection to like quality advertisements that I have seen, and I feel as though I've improved the quality of the advertisement off of like the base advertisement style,
Right.
right? And so I'm trying to take those learnings and apply them and continue to do what I have seen work, but also emulate what is currently working or what I think is currently working about the advertisement that I have. The advertisement that I have is very, very basic, but I've done a lot of very, very, very basic,
Mhm.
and they don't work any better than what currently exists, or they're worse.
Mhm.
So I think that's a factor of optimization and time on the market as well as existing engagement on that post. And so I don't think I'm really going to make like leaps and bounds by like essentially like changing the background on the video I currently have.
Right.
Um, but I think that like an added flavor to that style could work well, which is why I'm interested in the B-roll thing. But additionally, trying to replicate winning ads that I've seen from other businesses that I've run long term is like a kind of another version of just do what works
Mhm.
because they have shown that it works, and so it should work for me. So that's one of the lessons learned.
Replicate then iterate.
Yeah, yeah, and trying to branch out my replication to things that have worked for advertisers in general, and not just the one piece of 22 seconds that I have.
Right.
Because, it's I mean, you can iterate infinitely on that, like, you really can, if you really wanna get down to the nitty-gritty, but, like, what progress is it really gonna make? I haven't seen that because I've done a bunch of different iterations of it, and I haven't seen it progress in any way.
Right. I hear you.
And so, maybe I just need more reps, which is why I'm thinking about the B-roll thing if this batch of tests doesn't work, but, I can only do so much at the same time,
Yeah, I
right?
hear you.
And so I'm trying to prioritize within the niche of advertising, which I've prioritized in the business, which actually gets into one of my other updates. But that's one of my main bullet points. This one is an interesting one. I've been having this like mental hindrance of imposter syndrome in like a weird way of like when I make these ads, I'm not a 55-year-old grandmother. So like is it okay that I make ads for 55-year-old grandmas? It's like this weird like thing of like almost feeling like you're not someone who you say you are because you create ads that target a person that you're not, right? Like if I was selling parts for a Miata, like would never even like probably wouldn't even cross my mind because I'm like, oh well, like I own a Miata and I buy parts,
Right.
right?
You are the target audience.
Right. So, but it was
By
a
the
little
people,
bit
for the people.
different with this because it's like, well, the target persona is so different from who I am. I kind of feel weird selling to them because although I've done a ton of research to try and understand their problems, what they experience every day, um, what solutions they're looking for, like I know those things, or at least I've researched into them, so I have good, I have a relatively well-defined picture of what their lives are like.
Right.
I'm still not that person, and so when I write ads that like are in the first person or like are talking to someone, I'm like, is this okay? Right? Like, there's, like, a weird imposter syndrome about it, like, like, it's almost like like an ethical thing of, like, is this
Am
even
I a scam
right?
artist? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly, and, like, I don't wanna think that because I don't think I'm presenting and the thing that really helped me get through it was looking at the winning ad I currently have and looking at the reviews I have from the time I've owned the store,
Mhm.
which is, like, 150 reviews at this point.
Mhm.
Um and so looking at those and reading through those and looking at the metrics between like 1 versus 4 or 5-star reviews, and then looking at the comments, like it was really reinforcing that like, no, like people actually like this product. Like this is something that like I am bringing to the market that people actually enjoy. I may not be this person, but like people still love this thing.
Right.
And so like that really helped with the like, is it okay to like be someone else in your advertisements
Right.
aspect, right?
Right.
And like it seems like silly on the surface because you're like you have a framework that works, just use it, right?
Mhm.
But like to me, it was a hindrance because like every single time I was writing a script, I'm like, is this even like ethically okay to say? Even though I wasn't saying anything that was like ethically wrong, like none of my scripts are like making claims that are outright outrageous. They
Right.
don't make false claims. They don't say things in a way to be misleading. Like I'm not doing any of that, but there's still that aspect, right? And
Yeah.
so that really helped me. That was one of like the barriers that like kind of broke down a little bit more this week in
Right.
writing that script.
Right.
And I think also it helps to dive into the research so much, you start to feel like you are the person you're targeting to.
Right.
And so that helps with that mental
You
health
are the
too.
55-year-old great.
Yeah, like it helps from that level.
Yeah.
Um Something else that I've been focusing on is um producing volume, but value over volume within that volume, right? Just putting out iterations because I can click a filter icon in CapCut doesn't like necessarily reflect in like it's not going to take a shit ad and then make it like a one hit wonder,
Right.
right? Or at least I haven't seen that. Like maybe it will, right? The only time I've ever seen Hormozi talk about iterations from that standpoint is when you get a winner. He's like, when you get a winner, iterate the crap out of it. But don't well, I haven't heard him say this, but my taking is from that is, okay, when I get a winner, iterate the crap out of it, but also don't waste your time iterating a bunch of shit that's already crap, right?
Right. Right.
And so that's one of my takeaways from this week. Um, it takes more work and sacrifice than you think. And the more I go through the process, the more of this I learn. It's just like, just it takes so much work to get good at something. And, that's something that's been a continuous learning for me. And I just feel like I learn it more and more and more. And I push other things to the side more and more. And I continue to see that this takes a ton of effort.
Mhm.
And, I just raise the bar and raise the bar and raise the bar and raise the bar. So
Right.
it's been a continuous learning for me. And, but funny enough, the more I work, the more I seem to love the work. So, there's definitely many, many moments where I'm like, I've listened to this script now 150 times editing this advertisement. That's probably not an exaggeration. It's probably something close to that. Not in full, right? But in
As you
segments,
yeah.
easily 150 times, 200 times, for sure. That's probably a low estimate. And so there are definitely times where I'm like, I am so tired of the same voiceover.
Mhm.
But there is something really nice about putting a ton of effort into something and then putting it out there.
Right.
And even if it fails, there is a small reward cycle of oh, I completed task.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even
It's
if
game
task
case.
sucks, task still complete. Check.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's a um, small reward aspect in that sense. But I think that's about all I had for business this week.
Those are good
So,
lessons.
yeah,
Yeah.
small takeaways.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
ready to talk about this car a little bit?
Yeah, I have an introduction for the Muscle Car Museum.
Mm-hmm.
I'll read that first, and then we'll get into this car. So, the American Muscle Car Museum in Melbourne, Florida, is a privately owned museum owned by Mark Pylock, an entrepreneur whose passion for motorsport has manifested in one of the most incredible car collections we've ever seen. Mark grew up in Massachusetts, just like you, and pursued a career in the pharmaceutical industry, not like you. He started his own business in the pet pharmaceutical industry, helping pets worldwide before using his resulting fortune to help Melbourne pets by founding 3 Pylock dog parks in our area. His philanthropy extends beyond his dog parks, as the American Muscle Car Museum we're in right now has not only served to share the love of motorsport with the community, but has also raised millions of dollars for local charities, hosted numerous free city and county events, hosted thousands of utility workers and their equipment for Florida Power and Light Hurricane Power Recovery operations, and, most near and dear to our hearts, hosted our Florida Tech SAE team for our one and only fundraiser of the year. The money from that event year after year has been the lifeblood of our racing team. That generosity has continued today when Andrew and his team stepped in to help us in a time of need by lending us our dream podcast studio in a time where we had nowhere else to go. Mark, Andrew, Ed, and the staff at the American Muscle Car Museum, we thank you. So today we're talking about the 1970 Plymouth AAR Cuda, and I have a history written down if you'd like me to share.
Definitely.
First off, do you know what AAR stands for?
I read it on your sheet yesterday, and is it All American Racing?
It is.
Okay.
I didn't know what it was either. I had to look it up. But it's named after Dan Gurney's racing team, the All American Racers. Dan Gurney was a racing driver who won in Formula One, NASCAR, and IndyCar, and started his own racing team. And his team was contracted by Chrysler to run Plymouth's factory effort in 1970 for the SSCA Trans-American Series. The series required each racing car be homologated and sold as a production car, resulting in the absolute classic sitting behind us today. For the racing car, they took the base spec Barracuda, which was built before 1970, and gave it a unique 340 cubic inch V8 with a 6-barrel carburetor, which was a 3-barrel. It was 3 2-barrel carburetors that would go on to be commonly referred to as the 6-pack. And I actually think the car over here somewhere, maybe it's on the sign back there. It has 6-pack written on it too.
Mm-hmm.
Both Plymouths with the 6-pack. It would be given a lighter weight fiberglass hood, side exit exhaust, and stiffer suspension built not for excuse me. Jesus Christ, let me read this sentence again. It would be given a lighter weight fiberglass hood, side exit exhaust, and stiffer suspension built for cornering, not just drag racing. There we go, I got there. It made 290 horsepower on paper, but it's been tested at closer to 325 to 340 horsepower. Not much by today's standards, but the car was quick enough to take pole at 3 of the 6 races and finish the highest of second in the 1970 season. With all that said, the car admittedly wasn't really built to win races. Chrysler built the AAR Cuda for brand impact, trying to stir up excitement for the car and boost sales. Unfortunately, it didn't boost sales. The AAR Cuda sold, but it hardly made a dent in Plymouth's overall lineup. Despite building around 2,500 cars, they couldn't have timed this worse. In 1971, insurance premiums on muscle cars were skyrocketing, gas prices were creeping up, and emissions regulations were starting to choke performance. Unfortunately for Plymouth, the Barracuda would be built. Hang on. 6. Unfortunately for Plymouth, the Barracuda would build its cult following years later, when all the kids who loved visiting the showroom grew old enough to buy one themselves after the car was retired. This post-mortem of interest would retroactively boost the legend of Plymouth, but not the sales themselves. Poor sales today led to scarcity tomorrow, and that's the best seen by taking a look at the sales of 1970 today. So in 1970, Plymouth sold 55,000 Barracudas. And by comparison, Ford sold 198,000 Mustangs and Camaro sold 124,000 Camaros. And that was, you know, those are just for the muscle cars. When you talk about all the cars as a whole under the companies, Chrysler, which owns Plymouth,
Mhm.
controlled about 15% of U.S. auto market share in 1970. Ford had 25%, and GM held nearly 40%. So this market share would shrink over the years, often falling victim to poor market timing like the AAR Cuda, and making overly conservative safe moves, resulting in cars that lacked unique identity and ultimately becoming forgettable. This resulted in corporate cost cutting, and ultimately it resulted in Chrysler killing the brand in 2001. Plymouth, as a company, was never a dominant force. It was the underdog, punching above its weight class, and brought us some of the most historic cars like this Roadrunner over here, which deserves its own episode, and the AAR Cuda. That's the write-up I have for this car.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any other historical facts about the car? I've got a couple fun
No.
facts.
No.
No?
I was looking forward to listening to you guys, and another one of those weeks for me. But I do have some good personal notes.
Okay,
I have some good ones.
we'll get to that one.
So
I'll finish this up.
I have something.
That's okay. Um, so these are some fun facts and misconceptions about the car that I found when I was researching it, right? Um, the AAR Cuda was made for only 1 year, making it one of the rarest production Plymouths ever, with just 2,724 of them produced. The official horsepower rating was 290, but the real output was closer to 325, 340, like I said. Plymouth lowballed the numbers because insurance companies were taxing cars based on the official ratings of horsepower. So if they actually advertised it as having more power, the insurance rates would have gone up, and they were worried that that would end up with people buying less of them, right?
Mm.
Despite the fact that these were the horsepower wars where all the muscle cars were trying to one up each other, Plymouth was actually lowballing it, right? Um, Interestingly, the hood is painted black, not just for cosmetics, but it's to reduce the glare in the driver's eyes when they're racing. They pulled that straight out of the Trans Am race car setup. Um, the side exit exhaust, the exhaust exits right in front of the rear wheels. And that's not just for looks. It followed the Trans Am race car setup. By exiting out the side, it freed up more room for the rear suspension and reduced back pressure in the engine.
Mhm.
And then lastly, you couldn't order the AAR as an option package. If your VIN doesn't match, it's not a real one. So this was a different like VIN number car. It wasn't like a package that you could get put onto the base
Yeah.
model.
I I think it's interesting that I think it's interesting that they underrated the horsepower in order to potentially reduce insurance prices, but it's still called the All American Racer. Like it's
Yep.
still the AAR Cuda, and
Yep.
it looks like this.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know what will trick insurance companies?
Yeah. The
We
number.
change the horsepower value.
Yeah.
And then it's like that. And you're like, for sure. Yeah.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that you can almost see why they confused themselves into thinking that that was a good move. Because on the one hand, having a muscle car is all about having like the biggest swinging dick. You know what I mean? Like you're trying to show off to other people in this era
Yeah.
that you've got a faster, tougher car, right? So you want one that is advertised at as high a number as possible, even if it's not totally accurate, right?
Yeah.
So if you've had one good dyno run on a cold day at 340, you use 340, right? And then the customers are willing to pay extra to get that, right?
Yeah.
But I find it interesting that they nerfed the power numbers on paper. Um, I think that's kind of poetic with the fact that they were kind of an underdog company with this underdog car where it was advertised as less, but it could actually do more.
Yeah.
So it kind of is capable of more than it's given credit for, really. I think that's an interesting reflection of where the company was at that time.
Yeah. I think it could also be a reflection of a lack of understanding maybe in the target persona, right?
Yeah.
Because with marketing something like this, like your target persona, I would anticipate isn't like a 45-year-old, 50-year-old guy who wants like a weekend cruiser for cars and coffee.
Right.
Like those are the kind of people that are like, are my insurance premiums going to go up by 22% if I,
Right.
right? Like those are those kinds of people, right? Like the target for this is like, I would assume because of like everything I've seen out of older muscle cars is like the 22-year-old kid, 25-year-old kid that's like saved up the money and like he's going to get it together. He's going to get it first on the lot and he's going to want the clout. He's going to want the numbers. He's going to do some street racing. He's going to have some fun. He wants to see it kick ass on the track, right? Like that's the kid.
Mason with an LC 500.
Right. Exactly. And so like
Lower the horsepower numbers, Lexus, please.
yeah. So it's like it's funny to me because it could also be a factor of like a misunderstanding of who the target persona is for the car.
Right.
You know?
You know what's interesting about that Lexus actually? The trunk lid is made out of carbon reinforced plastic, which means that the trunk is a $10,000 replacement. So insurance is crazy high on it because if you get rear-ended, it's an expensive replacement. So
Sounds like it would
Lexus
be.
did the opposite, and I still want to buy it, which is exactly why Plymouth should have just run with the big numbers to try to get people to buy it anyways, right?
Yeah.
But you also got to think the Mustang was made as a pony car to appeal to a younger audience who didn't have as much money but wanted the fun and the thrills, right?
Hmm.
So when you come out with like a special edition muscle car like this, you have to compete with like the GT500, and that's a tough ask. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's difficult to market against that. It's maybe it's easier, I guess, to get rid of the insurance premiums and try to sell it to a younger audience, but like it's that weird, confusing area where you're not really sure what the right move is, and ultimately Plymouth made maybe the wrong move in doing that. Right now, I will say this specific car flew off shelves. People bought it left, right, and center. Right, it just didn't boost the sales of the rest of the Plymouth line.
Yeah.
Right, which was ultimately what they were hoping to do, but having one cool muscle car doesn't really make your four-door sedan any more interesting, right? It doesn't give your name more clout, which is what they were
Yeah.
hoping would happen, right? So that leads into segment two. That's all you have on segment one, which is the downfall of Plymouth and what we can personally learn from that. So let's recap what happened to Plymouth. Plymouth as a company hit its peak in 1970 with Chrysler's share of the US market around 15%. The company was firing on all cylinders. The E-body Barracuda was turning heads. The Roadrunner, the yellow car right behind us, and the green one, or the orange one back there, won Motor Trend's Car of the Year. And the brand had a model for everyone: four-door sedans, two-door coupes, etc. Sales were strong, and the market share was healthy for their size, and the future was looking bright. Then came the one-two punch that knocked the wind out of the entire muscle car market: the 1973 oil crisis and the new emission regulations. Overnight, big block performance cars became very expensive to insure and even more expensive to run and own, and slower thanks to the nerfed engines. Plymouth pivoted to economy models like the Valiant and the Volare, but those cars fell flat following the muscle car lineups of the 1960s. Worse even, the Volare launched with quality problems. Rust, drivetrain issues, and recalls off the factory floor each chipped away at Plymouth's reputation even more. By the 1980s, Plymouth had seemingly lost its brand identity, releasing models that would become lost to history. Some of your favorite models, like, let's see if you know any of these: the Champ,
Nope.
the Arrow,
Nope.
the Grand Fury.
Yes.
You know that?
Yes.
How?
Because my dad had a 1966 Plymouth Fury wagon, but it older. But I
Interesting.
know the Fury lineup because of that.
Do you know? Are you fond of it? Do you like the lineup?
Tingling with excitement.
Okay, and the Horizon. Do you know the Plymouth Horizon?
No,
Me neither.
that is the worst sounding of the bunch.
That-
Like if I were to just choose by name, if a car was called the Horizon, I would be like, that's gonna be crap.
If they were crap, no one bought them. These are textbook. I looked them up. I looked each one of these up as I wrote the sheet because I wanted to be informed. These are the textbook definition of cars.jpg. They're totally bland and completely forgettable.
Yeah.
In comes the cost-cutting measures. Chrysler's cost-cutting meant that Plymouths were just Dodge or Chrysler models with different badges. The Reliant was a Dodge Aries. The Voyager minivan was a Dodge Caravan. Plymouth became the cheaper version, not the cool choice or the performance choice. They became the bargain bin when you wanted to buy a Dodge or Chrysler with a shittier badge on it for less money. Plymouth would go on to release some mildly interesting cars like the Neon and the Prowler in the 1990s, but even those weren't exclusive to Plymouth for long. They quickly began rebadging to Dodge and Chrysler to rid them of the Plymouth budgeting brand, or the budget branding. Because if you see the Plymouth badge, it inherently becomes less valuable. So if you take it off and put Dodge on the same car, you get better sales, right? And that's an indicator of a dying brand.
So
By 1999, the brand's U.S. market share had slipped under 1%. Most people don't even know what Plymouths are at this point. In 2001, Chrysler finally put it down like a sick dog, rolling its final car off the lot. Sorry, I said Dodge Neon. It was a Plymouth Neon at the time. My mistake. That was a slip of the tongue. A Plymouth Neon off the factory line in June. Plymouth's fall wasn't a crash. It was a slow fade. Its most iconic years were brought to us in the 1960s and 1970s, and even the semi-notable cars in later years were later badged to be more marketable. So, with this history lesson, what do you think we can learn from the fall of Plymouth as a company?
Well, a couple things came to mind while you were reading. The first thing that came to mind was a lot of I would argue that a vast majority of big companies, of great companies, do a set thing really well, and that's just what they do, right? Like McDonald's, for still today just provides fast burgers and fries, primary. They've branched out since then, but like that's always been like their primary staple point.
Yeah.
It's like quarter pounder with fries, right? And like
Oh,
for her, yeah,
I have an interesting addition to this. The owner of, I want to say it's, Raising Cane's. The owner of Raising
yes,
Cane's owns every single building, every single restaurant. It's not a franchise. He personally owns all of them, right? And he did exactly that. He was like, we're going to have 3 things: Texas toast, chicken strips, and fries. That's it.
yeah,
If you want a sandwich, we'll take 2 pieces of Texas
coleslaw.
toast.
It was 4
And
things.
coleslaw.
Yeah.
There you go. 4
Yeah.
things. If you want a sandwich, we're going to put 2 pieces of Texas toast on the same chicken strip. That's it.
Yeah.
4 things, but we're going to make them good. You can get them in
Exactly.
different combos, but that's it.
Yeah.
And he's a multi-millionaire, right?
Yeah.
Multi-deca 100-millionaire.
Yeah, it's funny because Hormozi actually mentioned. I was trying to think of the name
Mhm.
while I was talking, but that Hormozi mentioned that Raising Cane's.
Yep.
Guy.
Rory
Uh,
Sutherland brings it up in his advertising book as well.
Yeah. But I think part of what I see led to the downfall of Plymouth is the branching out to try to catch up to the market rather than just sticking to something that they knew they could do well,
Right.
and like playing the game of like catch up, and that I especially like see that firsthand when you mentioned they tried to roll out other cars after like the oil crisis started to hit and insurance started to go up,
Right.
but they had quality issues. Well, that's obviously indicative of them rushing through a vehicle and its production,
Right.
likely to try and catch up, right? Why did they create this? To try to rush to catch up to the competition, to create something offhand as like the one-off thing to like boost up their market, right?
Yeah.
And so instead of focusing on like just how they could differentiate themselves in a unique way from the market in one way and target to that persona and just build that as their brand,
Right.
they tried to just kind of create a catch-all
Yeah.
within, or at least that's what I'm seeing within their brand. And a catch-all doesn't really do anything well. It's like a jack of all trades, but a master of none,
Yeah.
right? And so that's kind of what I see with the Plymouth story
Yeah.
from that perspective. I think it's sad that they went downhill the way they do. I think it's always sad to see a business die like that.
Yeah. The reliability issues were a big hit.
Yeah,
But you know what doesn't have reliability issues?
LC 500
A Lexus LC 500.
should be you should do a VSL ad, or like a VSL is like a long video format ad.
Uh-huh.
You should do a VSL ad for Lexus and their new 2026 LC 500.
Dude, I would steal that car. They would give me the press car. They'd never see it again. I'd take the plates off. Dude, have you heard or seen videos of the stolen Z06? Have you heard of this?
No.
There's a black C8, or I'm sorry, a C7 Z06.
That's the
Could
ghost
be a
guy.
C6 Z06.
Or
Different
is
guy.
different guy?
Different guy,
Okay.
yeah. But he has one of the mounts that goes on the back of your car with a 360-degree camera.
Oh yeah.
It's a heavily modded black, I think it's a C6 Z06. Goes out looking for cops, and then ditches them. Posts the videos on YouTube, right? He's been doing this for a while. Eventually, the cops caught him, arrested him, and he the problem was, oh, I can't remember. They arrested him. He did something wrong. The big thing is they found like 150 pounds of drugs in the car, and firearms that were unregistered. So he is going to prison for a long time. But I thought it was an interesting story. Anyways, I would do a whole video. Now I know how to use CapCut. We would have an entire Vision 79 special about the LC 500. But back to Plymouth. It had reliability issues, which is a big issue, especially because in the 1980s is when Toyota started kicking off
Yeah.
with their
Japan was
reliable models.
slaughtered
Yeah.
competition.
And so if you're looking at like the first ever Toyota anything compared to a Volare or Valiant, whatever. The Volare with rust from factory, no go, right?
Yeah.
I think a big death blow to this company was the loss of brand identity, right? Um, this is a distinct aspirational performance for value car,
Yeah.
and then they lost that when they started making the four-door car.jpg, just square body, forgettable 1970s cars. Um,
Yep.
and then even then they shot themselves in the foot by rebadging them to Dodge or Chrysler because they thought that by rebadging them to Dodge or Chrysler, they would make them more marketable, which it did. But like, kind of like conservation of energy. If you're making Dodge and Chrysler more marketable, you're now making Plymouth less marketable. And so you're kind of like stabbing your own brand to death by doing
Mm.
that, right?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, I think it was just weak marketing. The Barracuda actually beat the Mustang to market in 1964. So
Oh
this
yeah.
car, not this one, but the Barracuda came out before the Mustang, right? But they just didn't market it the same way, right? And like the Mustang's smaller, it's not, it's more of a pony car than like an all-out muscle car, right? But like, who knows? In a different world with a bigger marketing budget and like better ads, this could have been the Mustang, right?
Yeah.
Um, Fewer headline grabbing cars. They just didn't make as many of these. Like, okay, give me some impressive performance cars that Ford made in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s.
I mean the 350, the 500, the Mustangs come to mind immediately. Um, the GT.
Shelby Cobra.
Yeah, the Cobra. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Those
And
are the four that would come to mind, I guess.
those are the four that spring to mind first off, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure there's others that I can't think of off the top of my head, but at least there's four, right?
Yeah.
What's Plymouth got? These two. It has these two cars. Right.
Yeah. I mean the only like the only Plymouth that kind of stands out in my mind was like the Barracuda.
Mhm.
Kind of the
And
only
what's
one.
worse is that they could easily have more awesome muscle cars that I don't know about because their advertising then wasn't good.
Yeah.
Like they could have 4 or 5 performance vehicles like Ford did,
Yeah.
but the advertising isn't as
Paid
good.
CBO campaigns through Meta would have saved Plymouth.
That would have saved them, yeah.
Would have saved.
Or winning any races in motor racing. Like we only know about the GT because it's a race car. Like they didn't sell it. Like you couldn't buy a
Yeah.
Ford GT until
Went on Sun or yeah, went on Sunday, sell on Monday. That
exactly,
was,
right?
a lot of their shtick.
Right, and this put it on pole on Saturday, but it did not win on Sunday.
Right.
It got second on Sunday. They actually, I had read something, but I couldn't confirm it, so I didn't put it in the podcast. But it was something like they built this car to prioritize qualifying laps. They didn't care where they finished in the race. They just wanted to put it on pole, like an easy way to get
Interesting.
headlines, right? Like Ferrari in Formula One today. Um, but yeah, I think that a heavy emphasis on marketing would have improved their results, which then tells us for building brands today that marketing is everything. We know that from Hormozi, but this is a real world application of what happens if you don't do that well.
Yeah.
Um, Originality and quality both go a long way, right? If you're not going to have originality, you have to have quality. That's Toyota has shown that, right? If you have such high quality, that is originality. If you have such low quality, that's also originality, but not in the right way. And conversely, you can have originality, but not quality, right? So, for example, pick a really niche car that's awesome, but is not built very well or like isn't reliable, right? Um,
Um, is not built very well.
yeah, it's not built well, but everybody loves them. They're
Um,
really original and cool. I don't know.
Modern cars.
Any BMW, people love them.
Yeah, there's probably a few beams.
They're original, but like, they aren't reliable, right? You could say.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure there's
Oh,
other cars.
the first 335 lineup of the E90s twin turbo inline six. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, people love those cars, but those turbo motors, yes, you can get a lot of power out of them, but for how long is
Yeah.
always the question.
I'll be so frank. Probably most of the cars in here fit that bill. They're original, but they are not quality. Like they don't, all these cars are museum kept, right? But out in the sun, these things age quickly. And if you're driving them, reliability issues left, right, and center, right? Old American plastic squeaks, right? So like a lot of these
Fair.
cars are original, but not quality. And either way you cut it, it's like you either have to have a good balance of both or really good one way or the other, right? Um, like Toyota with quality or the whatever examples with originality, right? And I don't think they hit the mark with either with the Volare, which was forgettable and not very good, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of cars, to be fair, I think broad spectrum of vast majority of modern cars missed the quality mark intentionally, because I think a lot of cars are meant to be disposable at this point as lease vehicles.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why I like seeing a lot of this older stuff, because at least by and large there is a higher bar of quality when it comes to the older stuff.
Right.
You know?
And I know that I'm glazing Lexus, but that's something that has really impressed me in the ES, is
Mm.
that the build quality is so high. I have one complaint, which is that I feel like eventually the center armrest is going to start to squeak because the hinges are plastic. That's the only complaint. It's a leather wrapped center console.
Yeah.
And like there's leather on the seats, there's leather on the doors, there's wood in the doors. Like everything feels firm when you shake it, right? And the LC500 looks like that way, but on steroids. Everything is wrapped in
Yeah.
leather or Alcantara or metal, right? And so the build quality is just so high when you pair that with the reliability. It's like the car doesn't even have to look good. I personally like the way that they look. The spindle grille is not a popular look. People like Lexus people don't like the spindle grille, right? But it doesn't matter because the build quality and reliability are so high that gives it its originality.
Right.
But the last thing I have written down here is I kind of summarized the two into one quote that I wrote. Whatever you do it well, do it your way, and tell people you're doing it,
Hmm.
which kind of wraps up what I have for segment 2.
Yeah. Barracuda is a cool car. Barracuda is a really cool car. I remember my dad used to live in this
Is this a personal connection to the
yeah,
Barracuda?
yeah.
This is segment 3.
I'm sorry.
Would you like
Do
to
we
get started
announce
with segment 3?
3? Yes.
We'll get started with segment 3. Go
Yeah.
for it.
So my dad used to live in a on a kind of it was like an apartment, but it was like a larger apartment. And so
Okay.
it was essentially a house with 3 levels. The bottom level was a scuba dive shop. The center level was where my dad and I and his girlfriend lived, but it was bigger, so we also had another roommate that was kind of like interchange out. Like, someone would stay for 12 months and then leave, you get someone else, right? Sometimes they stay for 36 months or 48 months or whatever, but that, and then there was a third floor with other people that were also kind of like sharing that space, right?
Got it.
And it was a house across it was next to that place was next to a park, and across from that park there was like a little residential neighborhood, and in that neighborhood there was a car under a cover, and we never knew what it was. It was there as long as I can remember, and it was there when my dad moved out when I was 18, or no, when I was 14, sorry. So it was there for at least 14 years.
Right.
And
Unmoving the whole time.
unmoving the whole time, yeah. And I remember the Sandy Hook hurricane hit when I was like 11 or 12. That was wait, Sandy Hook was the shooting. What was the fucking
It
hurricane?
was Hurricane Sandy.
Sandy. My
Yeah.
bad. Damn, that's gonna get flagged. Oh well.
It's okay. Two
Sandy-
different tragedies.
Yeah.
Have you seen the government has made their last like 10 hurricanes bullshit? Like
Yeah.
Bush did Katrina or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the
I don't know what the
weather
quote
planes
was.
they track, and then they say that they're chemtrailing the hurricanes or whatever.
You can do that. You can it's called storm seeding. You can't
Yeah.
do that.
Oh yeah.
But like
Dubai does it on
Katrina?
purpose.
yeah, but like Katrina, what's the
Yeah.
function? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
We should do a conspiracy theory episode.
One of our topics, the old like potential topic.
Oh yeah, why do people love conspiracy?
One of them is why do people love
Yep.
conspiracy? And then it's just talking about our favorite theories, right?
Yeah, I got so many. But anyways,
Car
when
under the cover.
Hurricane Sandy came through, not what I said earlier.
Yeah.
Hurricane Sandy came through. The cover got ripped off that car. And I was walking by, and it was a Barracuda. Funny enough, so that was like a small little tidbit, like one of my first introductions to Plymouth. That was like 11 or 12.
Yeah.
And then around that same time too, my dad got a 1966 Plymouth Fury wagon. And when he got it, it didn't have a motor or transmission in it. It was just a shell. And that was my first experience like with heavy mechanic or seeing heavy mechanical work happen. Because my dad put a motor in that car, motor transmission in that car.
Yeah.
And he ended up like kind of getting it together and then selling it because it was just too much of a project.
Yeah.
And so he got it like sorted together and then he sold it. But those were like my first introductions to Plymouth. And like, kind of like the 60s American muscle car. Because
Yeah.
my dad always had like older American cars, but he had like Chryslers from, the 80s.
Yeah.
So, um,
He could have had Plymouths, just
yeah.
rebadged to be more. Depends on the VIN. Yeah.
Yeah. I think these were unique Chrysler products, Chrysler Fifth Avenue and Chrysler
Yeah.
LeBaron.
Yep. Those were.
So I think those were unique Chrysler products. But those were kind of like my earlier introductions to Plymouth. The AAR was the only time I've ever seen one is in this museum, at least to my recollection.
Yeah, me too.
But they are very they're very cool cars. It's sad to see. It was sad to see Plymouth die. And it was sad to see like the GM lineup really die in like the 2008
Right.
financial crash.
Right.
Because those, but it's like, I think back on that and I'm like, and I say that I've more or less stopped saying it because I've realized that I don't really mean what I say when I say it. And the reason I say that is because I used to hang out with some other friends of mine through like my early years of college. And they'd always talk about like, oh man, like I can't believe they're getting away from making manuals. Or man, I can't believe they stopped making X, Y, and Z. Right. And for a long time, I entertained that train of thought because I was like, yeah, like, this new model blows, or like manual transmissions are sick. And like, I still agree with those things. Right. Like, for me personally, that is true. But I stopped putting thought into it because I was like, the reason these cars are changing and the reason the things that I like are dying is because the only people who like them are people like me, and people like me don't buy them.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I can sit back and complain, but I'm not also shelling out a paycheck to go get a new car to begin with.
Right.
So like for me to complain about it being like manual versus automatic,
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'll still have my opinion on that. But like, I'm not gonna, like harp with mental energy on like some of these modern car changes because it's
Yeah.
like, well, I'm not like a buyer to begin with. So like for me to complain about a company moving in this direction is like, it's kind of baseless because like
You're not doing anything to help it. Yeah.
I don't even like. I think even if I had the money to get one of those cars, there's 100 other older cars for that same price point that I would get first. You
Yeah,
know?
there's a similar thing happening with the LC 500. One of the YouTubers that I watch that is really into it is in a similar position to me where he's like, "Listen, I can probably afford one of these in the next like 5 years, but I'm afraid they're going to be gone by then." And it's because not enough people are buying them. It's a phenomenal car, but the people who appreciate it for what it is can't afford it. Because like I
Yeah.
have no money. So I appreciate like a driver's car. But most people with 100,000 to drop on a car are just gonna go buy like $140,000 like McLaren because it
Yeah.
has more horsepower and it looks fancier, right?
Yeah.
But like the people who appreciate it can't afford it. And I actually wonder if that is what happened with this car, where the younger audience that was for this car couldn't afford it because it was too expensive for the time.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
haven't gone
It's
back
a
and checked the
good
numbers.
possibility. It would be interesting to see a price point comparison between this and like the Ford Mustang.
Yeah, yeah, that
At the
would be
time.
interesting. I wish I pulled that out.
No.
But at the same time, I can also understand, like, I am not a super guy, right? I don't like any of the supers. None of them really resonate with
Mm.
me. I'm not really a fan of any of them. I'm a Lexus SC300 fan because it's the super chassis, but with the luxury package on it because it's Lexus, not Toyota, right? And that's what Shaw and I built. So I have a personal connection to that car.
Mhm.
None of the supers do it for me. Even the ones that everybody's crazy about just don't scratch the itch.
Yep.
But I'm still sad to see them botch the Mark V because I know the cultural significance that car has to its audience. And
Mhm.
so I think that although I don't care if the Supra stays or goes, the same with Mustang, the Mach-E, right? I'm not a big Mustang guy.
Yeah.
I probably will never own a Mustang, right? But I'm still sad to see the Mach-E happen, right? Because I know that it has cultural significance to the people that it's important to. So I have the same types of feeling about Plymouth, where it's like I also would probably never own one, but I can understand that watching it go was sad for the kids who grew up looking at this in the showroom saying that they're going to buy one day.
Yeah.
And eventually they go buy it, but no one appreciates it because the brand isn't around anymore. So no one knows what a Plymouth is,
Mm.
right? So like you don't get the clout that you wanted as a kid, knowing that if you bought this car, you had the pole position car. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. And it's a yeah, it's it's a, you know, it's a sad fall of Plymouth. Um, but you know, it is what it is. It's a fierce market out there, you know, and there was a lot of other cars to compete with it. I think it's super, super cool. And it was sad to see it go, but I'm appreciative to be here with one and to
I
you
have
know
I
talk
have
about it.
a much more significant relation with this car.
Okay, cool.
When I was writing this section, I tried to go back and find the specific source of my first interaction with this car, and I found a few things that were similar or tangential, but I couldn't find like the specific thing in particular. And honestly, I may be misremembering it, but the story is the same, right?
Hmm.
Um, you know when you're like, 15, 16, you make things out to be more than they really are, right? Like you and your first girlfriend weren't actually that close, right? But now thinking back, you romanticize things. It's a similar instance with this car, right?
Yeah.
Um, I have a very, very vivid memory of the Plymouth Barracuda being the first ever barn find car I had ever heard of. I
Oh
was
yeah.
just getting into cars. I was just getting into muscle cars. I'm like, 15, 16 years old, buying my first car and starting to wrench on cars. And the idea of finding a classic, um, even a historic muscle car buried away in a barn, unclaimed, unmaintained, and awaiting a new owner who is going to take care of it is like the stuff of dreams, right? Literally, I think my first experience with the concept was in a Forza Horizon video game in which you find and restore barn finds.
Hmm.
And I didn't know that was a feature of the game. I didn't know barn finds existed. I was just ripping around the
I
map.
forgot about that until right now. Those were
Yep.
fun though.
Right?
Yeah.
I stumbled upon the building and like the cutscene started.
Oh yeah.
And so my first ever experience with a barn find at all was the Forza Horizon cutscene. And I was like blown away. And in the game, you go and restore it and then
Yeah.
drive it around. And I fell in love with the concept immediately, right? And so that triggered my memory for barn finds. Every time I think of a barn find, I see the orange with black stripes on the side, right? And then I have another significant memory. I think this came after the barn find, of a hot rod magazine that I was reading on a flight somewhere. I can't remember where I was flying. I think it was for rowing. Um, but I remember that also being a barn find story that had before and after photos of this one was an AAR with the stripes on the side. And I recall the bright orange vividly, and it has stuck in my mind ever since. So, being such a symbolically significant memory of mine, I associate the feeling of wonder and historic reverence to this car. I actually didn't know much about the car specifically before writing this podcast. I only knew what the car meant to me and how it made me feel. Like a 16-year-old who just pulled the tarp off of a forgotten ledge. And that's
Yeah.
that's what I associate with this car.
Yeah. It is it's a cool car. It is. It is a really cool car.
And like I mentioned earlier, it's rare for me to have strong emotional ties to cars,
Mm.
right? Like I care for most cars, right?
Yeah.
I don't watch Whistling Diesel because he blows up cars, and I don't like to see that happen, even if it's not a car I like,
Sure.
right? But this is one of the cars that I have like a formative memory with, which is super cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I got.
That's all I got.
All right. The dial in quote today. I have two of them written down, and I'm not sure which I want to go with. Maybe I'll read both. I'll start with the Kiyosaki quote. This is both in regard to the fall of Plymouth and why it didn't work out, right? Robert Kiyosaki says, often in the world, it's not the smart who get ahead, but the bold. And I think that is representative of the fact that Plymouth made really boring cars and they did not sell well.
Mm.
And other companies made less boring cars. Mustang or Ford kept building the Mustang even through the low power days.
Yeah.
Chevy kept building the shitty Camaro, right? Chevrolet made the low power but beautiful C3 Corvette through the low fuel, low power days. But my last quote here is: the soul afraid of dying never learns to live. The heart afraid of breaking never learns how to love. The mind afraid of the unknown never learns to grow. And the dream afraid of walking never learns to take the chance. And that's also indicative of Plymouth being too afraid, I think, to make bold strategy moves and playing it too safe for the market at the time.
Yeah.
But that's it.
Very cool. Well, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed this American Muscle Car Museum special talking about the AAR. And tune back next week for some business updates. And if you're watching, you got through the whole thing, let us know what you think of the new format style with the business stuff. Not sure if we'll change it by your comments, but you could comment anyway. But always appreciate you guys, despite the slightly snarky remarks you get from me sometimes. And thank you for tuning in and listening. Always appreciate the support, and have an excellent week.